The journey of a Pokemon researcher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276, The competition begins. Round 1, Rockfield. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the quartz conference competition finally officially began. According to the rules of the competition, each trainer will be qualified for the semifinals by defeating the opponent in the 4 venues provided by the Alliance: water, ice, grass, and rock. Xuanjian was the first to draw the rock venue, so the first game will be held in the rock venue. "Have you decided on the Pokemon you will use today?" asked a mother who came to cheer before entering the venue. "Yes," Xuanjian nodded and said, "I've decided. Selecting Pokemon to fight is a science. Not only should you consider the venue's amplification effect on Pokemon, but you should also consider the Pokemon that the opponent may send out. For example, in the rock venue, ground-type and rock-type Pokemon will undoubtedly get more environmental amplification, but they will be severely restrained by water-type. If you send out electric-type Pokemon to guard against the opponent's water-type, they will be restrained by the ground-type. At the same time, because the opponent and the venue type have been determined and informed to the trainer long ago, how to collect information about the opponent and how much strength to show are also what the contestants need to consider. In the past quartz conferences, it was not uncommon for contestants to lose in the end because they were deceived by the false information spread by the opponent, even though they were stronger than the opponent. Then do your best. The villagers are waiting to see your match." His father encouraged him. "I will," Xuanjian said, his face showing a trace of caution. Compared with the Victor's Cup Challenge, the Quartz Conference has a much larger audience. If he makes a fool of himself, the whole Kanto and even the whole world will know about it. "Come on, brother," Yeezy, who was holding Eevee in her arms, also said. Xuanjian nodded, touched his sister's head, and said, "Okay, then I'll go in first." Xuanjian's first opponent was a young trainer named Kakuta. According to the information that Shoto helped to find, this was a newcomer who just debuted this year, and there was not much information to provide. Xuanjian did not dare to be careless about such an opponent. After all, there are many people who lose the game every year because they underestimate the newcomers and hide their strength. "Go, Shark." Xuanjian sent out his first Pokemon, which was the Shark given by Sakuki. For this game, there is no better choice than Shark, which has ground attributes and is not restrained by water attributes. "What is this?" Kakuta looked at the round, cute-looking round land shark, and made the same mistake as most newcomers, not knowing this Pokemon. He hurriedly took out the illustrated book, but found that he couldn't find it. "This is not a Pokemon from Kanto, you can't find it in the illustrated book," Xuanjian said proudly without any sense of bullying the newcomer. "I'm kindly reminding you that this is a dual-type Pokemon of Dragon and Ground. According to normal tactics, the most correct choice at this time is to taunt the opponent and disrupt the opponent's psychology, but this is just a game after all, and it is also broadcasted. Xuanjian thinks he should pretend to be a fool and keep some manners." At this time, the commentator also found the information and explained loudly, "Wow, the first Pokemon sent by Xuanjian is actually Garchomp, which is a common Pokemon in the Sinnoh region. Its final evolution, Garchomp, is a precious Pokemon that can be compared with Dragonite. How should Kakuta deal with it?" Hearing the referee's words, Kakuta gritted his teeth, tried to ignore the audience who were excited by the appearance of Garchomp, and threw the Pokeball in his hand. "Go, Slowking." "Slowking. Not bad, it seems that you have checked my information before and made sufficient preparations," Xuanjian praised. Slowking is definitely a Pokemon that is enough to become the main force for a newly debuted trainer. The opponent brought it out in the first round of the game. It seems that he checked his own information and made sufficient preparations. Then according to the rules, the side that summons the Pokemon first attacks first, so I'm going to make a move. Garchomp, use Sandstorm. The basic attributes of Garchomp and Slowking differ by 190 points, not to mention that Slowking's level is much higher than that of Garchomp. A head-on collision is very disadvantageous to Garchomp, so Xuanjian chose to spread the field with weather skills first. I saw that the air blew out of the big mouth of the round land shark, rolling up the sandstorm, blurring the vision of Slowking, and continued to cause damage to Slowking. The round land shark also activated the sand hiding characteristic, and its body became blurred. Sandstorm. Not good. Kikuta shouted. Although Slowking can learn to pray for rain, since weather skills basically rely on skill teaching and skill machine learning, Slowking has not mastered it yet. After thinking about it, he didn't find a better way, so Kikuta could only order, Slowking, use the water gun to attack. Fortunately, Slowking is a water and psychic Pokemon after all. With a super perception of psychic Pokemon, even with the interference of the sandstorm, Slowking's water gun also found the right direction. However, Xuanjian would not sit and wait for death, and immediately ordered, round land shark, dig a hole. With Xuanjian's king-level strength, the moment the order came out, it was transmitted to the mind of the round land shark through the consciousness link, which greatly shortened the reaction time of the round land shark and increased its speed in disguise. The round land shark quickly dug a hole in the ground and got into it to avoid the attack of the water gun. Go over and use water wave at the hole. Kikuta reacted quickly and ordered immediately, trying to seal the round land shark in the hole. How could I not be prepared for such a trick? Xuanjian shook his head. The digging skill is very useful for evasion and sneak attack. The only disadvantage is that the movement trajectory is fixed. As long as the opponent approaches the hole and attacks, it will easily become a living target. For this, he has already figured out a way. Round land shark, use quicksand hell. Most Pokemon have the digging skill, but only ground-type Pokemon can use it without any weaknesses, because they can master the quicksand hell skill, destroy the tunnel dug from the ground, and block the opponent's pursuit. After Xuanjian saw the opportunity and gave the order, the round land shark immediately launched the quicksand hell. The hole in the nearby ground immediately turned into quicksand, collapsed and sank, and the dodgeable Slowking was swept into the quicksand. Well done, land shark, use rocket headbutt to knock it up. Hearing Xuanjian's attack, Kikuta did not sit still and wait for death, but ordered, Slowking, use psychic attack downwards. The blue figure broke out of the ground and hit Slowking hard, knocking it into the air. Slowking also took the opportunity to use psychic to hit land shark. This time the two sides were tied. After being hit by psychic, land shark suffered a lot of damage. Xuanjian did not dare to let it fight Slowking head-on again, and let it go underground again to avoid the water gun that Slowking attacked again. This time, Kikuta learned his lesson and did not let Slowking get close to the cave entrance to launch an attack, but this did not completely eliminate the threat of round land shark. Under Xuanjian's order, round land shark had already come under Slowking and launched an attack again. Round land shark, another quicksand hell. With the last lesson, Kikuta had been alert. When he heard Xuanjian's order, he immediately shouted, Slowking, use your telekinesis to float up. Xuanjian was a little surprised to see that Slowking floated slightly with the help of his telekinesis, his feet off the ground, and escaped the fate of being trapped in the quicksand hell. However, he was prepared for this situation. Round land shark, jump out and bite Slowking, then use dragon meteor. The blue figure jumped out of the quicksand with agility that was inconsistent with its body size, bit Slowking's tail, and then used Dragon Meteor. Because the tail was bitten by the round land shark, Slowking's movement was restricted. The power of the Dragon Meteor was completely poured on it, sending it into the sky, and then it was smashed to the ground with the explosion of the skill. Under such a heavy blow, Slowking lost his combat power without suspense. Slowking lost his combat power. In the first round, Xuanjian won. The referee announced. This time, Xuanjian's elves were finally able to appear once. It was not easy. Chapter 277 Winner of the first round. Great! We won the first round. In the assistant area, Duoga shouted happily after seeing the victory of Land Shark. There is still a certain gap between Land Shark's strength and Slowking. Seeing Land Shark appear, Duoga was sweating. Actually, you don't need to be too nervous. Although Land Shark is a little weaker, Xuanjian's level of trainer can make up for this gap. Yato said. I know, but I just can't help being nervous. But this is the fun of watching the game, isn't it? Duoga said confidently. Stop talking, look at the game, the opponent has taken out the second Pokémon. Shota said, and the two quickly turned their attention back to the field. While the few people were talking, Kikuta had taken back the powerless Slowking and took out a majestic armored shell. This is getting interesting. Yato said, a metamorphosis has dual attributes of water and ice, and it seems to have dust-proof properties. Now Land Shark is helpless. If that kid had taken out Metamorphosis just now, he might have won the first round. Shota nodded in agreement. That's right, but it's normal to panic when facing an unfamiliar Pokemon that sounds famous. Now it seems that he has adjusted himself. Hearing what the two said, Duoga said angrily, "Shut up. Watch the game carefully." The two. On the field, Xuanjian hesitated for a moment and did not replace Land Shark. Instead, he ordered, "Land Shark, hide underground. I won't let you escape." Kikuta, who had the advantage, regained his confidence. Metamorphosis, ultrasound. Upon receiving the order, Metamorphosis opened its shell slightly and sent out ultrasound at the hole made by Land Shark. Before Land Shark could seal the hole, it was immediately hit by the ultrasound. With its attributes and levels lagging behind, the round shark had little resistance to the ultrasonic wave, and immediately fell into a state of confusion, crawling out of the hole in a daze. Seeing that the attack was effective, Kikuta happily praised, "Well done, Ironclad. Next, use the freezing light." The white cold light shot out from the spikes of the Ironclad, accurately hitting the round shark. Under the stimulation of the low temperature, the round shark woke up from the confusion, but was immediately drowned by the cold light. When the Ironclad's attack ended, the round shark was completely frozen. "Win," Kikuta said in surprise as he watched the round shark being frozen. "You are too happy too early." Xuanjian's voice sounded faintly. "This strength is not enough to kill the round shark." As soon as the voice fell, the ice layer that froze the round shark made a squeak sound, and then broke. The round shark rolled out with its belly bulging. How is this possible?" Kikuta was stunned. "Of course it's possible," Yato answered from the sidelines. "The ice-type freezing ray does have 4 times the damage to the round land shark. But if it only hits part of it, it's not enough to make the round land shark lose its combat effectiveness." He saw it clearly just now. Only the initial freezing ray caused damage to the round land shark. Then the round land shark woke up in the low temperature and immediately used the defense skill to prevent the subsequent damage. The ice layer condensed around its body was just the effect of the freezing ray that could not break through the defense. Such quality is far ahead of the opponent. Xuanjian, this guy, is very careful in this regard. Every elf with 4 times the weakness has learned to defend. Yato concluded. As soon as it left the ice layer, the round land shark emitted a dazzling white light and began to evolve. In the white light, its short and fat body gradually stretched and grew taller, evolving into a mighty fanged land shark. After nearly a year of accumulation and training, the round land shark finally got rid of its infancy and began to evolve. It's useless even if it evolves, the attribute disadvantage will not change. Kikuta cheered himself up loudly, "Ironclad, shed your shell, and then use the freezing light." With Kikuta's encouragement, the Ironclad also raised its momentum, discarded the heavy outer shell, and sacrificed its defense in exchange for a substantial increase in both attacks. What a courage! "Fanged land shark, let's go too!" Xuanjian shouted. Fanged land shark raised his arms, and the newly grown claws lit up with a blue light. He used the dragon claws on the Ironclad below, and chopped down in the shining cold light. Under the sharp dragon claws, the white cold light was actually split. Seeing this, Fanged land shark rushed forward even more desperately, and the claws bypassed the hard shell of the Ironclad at a tricky angle, and cut into the soft shell meat along the gap. The core was threatened, and the Ironclad immediately burst out with all its strength. For a moment, the white cold light was so strong that everyone couldn't help but close their eyes. When everyone opened their eyes again, the field had returned to calm. Only the icicles on the ground proved that what had just happened was not an illusion. Metallic shellfish and land shark have both lost their combat effectiveness. "It's a draw," the referee announced. At the last moment, land shark's dragon claw successfully hit the soft flesh of metallic shellfish, causing great damage to it, but land shark also lost its combat effectiveness in the strong freezing light. "Thank you for your hard work, land shark. Have a good rest." Xuanjian took back land shark. Although the dragon claw split the freezing light head-on and prevented it from being frozen, the low temperature caused by the freezing light still caused it to suffer severe frostbite. After all, 4 times the attribute restraint is not a joke. It is already an extraordinary performance to be able to draw. On the other side, Kikuta also took back the metallic shellfish and silently summoned a coconut egg tree. He knew that his chances of winning were very small, but he was unwilling to give up. Seeing Kikuta with a stubborn face, Xuanjian couldn't help but comfort him. Don't be too discouraged. As a newcomer you have performed very well. It's just that you are unlucky to meet me. Seeing the opponent who was not much older than himself comforting himself, Kikuta smiled bitterly and asked, "Really? Thank you for your comfort. I also know that I have little chance of winning. Can you let me see your true strength?" Xuanjian shook his head. "Sorry, my goal is to win the championship. For this goal, I have formulated a thorough strategy, so I won't reveal my strength early." After a pause, Xuanjian said, "But I can let you feel it, probably to this extent. Come on, Steel Arm Cannon Shrimp." The Pokeball flew out of Xuanjian's hand, fell into the field and opened. A strange shrimp Pokemon with some deformed arms appeared on the field in Kikuta's opinion. What is this? Steel Arm Cannon Shrimp, a water-type Pokemon commonly found in the Kalos region. Water-type? Kikuta asked in confusion. His side was a grass-type coconut egg tree. Could it be that the opponent was going to show the ability to fight against attributes again? Xuanjian did not answer the common question of Kikuta and the surrounding audience, but said, "Although I can't let you see my true strength, I can still show you the approximate degree. Next, you can feel it." After a period of time together, the steel-armed cannon shrimp and Xuanjian have already had a tacit understanding. After hearing Xuanjian's words, the steel-armed cannon shrimp immediately raised the big cannon. After a little preparation, a bucket of darkness gushed out from the muzzle and hit the still-stunned coconut tree. The powerful energy directly pushed the coconut tree back, smashed several rocks and hit the wall of the command platform where Kikuta was standing. Coconut tree. Kikuta was shaken to the ground by the vibration of the coconut tree hitting the command platform. After standing up, he immediately went to see the coconut tree, but found that the coconut tree had lost its combat effectiveness. The scene was dead silent at first, and then the referee took the lead and announced, "The coconut tree has lost its combat power. All three of Kikuta's elves have lost their combat power. The winner of this competition is Xuanjian." Hearing the referee's words, the audience also reacted and cheered loudly. The commentator also shouted as if he had just woken up, "It's amazing. It's really amazing. Xuanjian defeated Kikuta's coconut tree with just one hit. Is this all his strength? Or is there something hidden?" Xuanjian raised his hand to greet the audience around him, and he breathed a sigh of relief. He thought to himself that pretending to be a fork was not an easy thing. If the coconut tree could use skills like defending just now, he would not be able to win with one hit. In that case, he would make a fool of himself in front of countless spectators. "I will watch all your games. Perform well and don't lose too early," Kikuta said to Xuanjian during the final handshake. "I will win the championship," Xuanjian said affirmatively. Chapter 278. The second game, the ice field. All three of Raikou Pokemon have lost their combat effectiveness. The winner of this competition is Tick. In the same rocky venue, a green-haired handsome guy just won the competition. He was Tick, a trainer from the Hone region who had fought against Xuanjian. The female trainer who lost the competition, Raikou, came over and was about to speak, but Tick waved her hand and said, "No need to say anything. I will work hard for you as well." Oh. Raikou was stunned, and said with a twitching mouth, "No, I wanted to say that your zipper was unzipped." Tick's face turned red in an instant, and he bowed to Raikou, then quickly zipped up his zipper, turned around and ran backstage, leaving behind a barbell-like laugh and Raikou's whispered complaints. "Really, if it weren't for my obsessive-compulsive disorder and staring at your pants all the time, how could I let you win so easily?" Ho ha ho ha. In the restaurant, Xuanjian and the other four were beating their chests and laughing, without caring about the lunatic looks of the people around them and Tick's resentful eyes. "Is it that funny?" Tick said angrily. "Yes," the four said in unison, and Xuanjian added, "The game was broadcasted throughout, which means that the whole world saw you fighting with your zipper open and being narcissistic. This game will definitely become one of the most valuable games of this quartz conference. It's a pity that the internet in this world is not very prosperous, otherwise countless Tick emoticons would have been made." Tick covered her face. "Oh my god. God bless the camera not to capture my zipper, and it would be best if the last part was not broadcast. This is probably impossible." Shota added again, "In order to increase the ratings, even if it was not broadcast at the time, the last part would be added when it was replayed, and it is estimated that some new close-ups will be inserted in the middle." Ho ha ho ha. The four couldn't help laughing again. After a while, Xuanjian, who had finally stopped laughing, asked, "Okay, let's change the subject. Tomorrow is our game. How are you preparing? Xuanjian's next game is at the ice arena, and his opponent is Tick. Just now, everyone watched the game to gather intelligence, but they didn't expect that the opponent was actually an acquaintance. Of course I'm ready. Tick said confidently, the ice field is my best field, I will definitely win tomorrow's game. Stop bragging, I can only win. The next day, Xuanjian arrived at the stadium on time, and Tick had been waiting there. As the referee gave the order, Tick summoned the Pokémon first. Go, curly-eared rabbit. Xuanjian did not rush to summon the Pokémon, but said, sure enough, just as I expected, you really don't plan to use your full strength? Tick sorted out her long green hair and said, aren't you? Those who are determined to win the championship, who would expose their full strength at this time? Since none of them have used their full strength, let's bet on who is more skilled. It's an honor. Xuanjian said while throwing the Pokéball. The Quartz Conference is not just a simple comparison of whose Pokémon is stronger, but also a comprehensive examination of the trainer's look, information collection ability, and analytical ability. For example, in today's battle, both of them knew that the opponent would not use all his strength, but how much strength he would use is a question worth pondering. After all, the difference in strength between the two sides is not big. Only by using Pokémon that are not much worse than the opponent can there be hope of winning. If the estimate is wrong, they will be suppressed by the opponent and lose the game completely. The Pokéball fell on the ice, bounced slightly and opened, and the cute figure of Zoroa appeared on the court. Tick grinned and said, Zoroa. It seems that our estimates are very accurate, so let's see who performs better. Curly-eared rabbit, go ahead. After receiving the order, curly-eared rabbit jumped towards Zoroa. With its speed far exceeding that of most primary form Pokémon, curly-eared rabbit quickly went around behind Zoroa and launched a high-five surprise attack skill. The high-five surprise attack is not very powerful, but it is fast, can attack first, and will also make the opponent who is hit fall into a state of fear. It is very appropriate for the Quiff to use this skill, but unfortunately this attack did not succeed, because Zoroa had already prepared for it. Zoroa raised his tail and used Steel Tail to resist the attack of the Quiff. You can actually use Steel Tail. Tick said in surprise. Although in theory all elves with tails have the possibility of learning Steel Tail, in fact, there are very few elves who can do this, at least Zoroa is not included. This is a skill specially prepared for dealing with the ice field. In order to learn this skill, Zoroa has worked hard for many days. Xuanjian said. Zoroa's fluffy tail is relatively soft and is not suitable for learning Steel Tail. However, in order to increase his own attack surface, Zoroa gritted his teeth and made several times more efforts than other elves, and finally successfully learned this skill. Although this is the first time to fight in the ice field, we have made a lot of preparations. Zoroa, let him see the results of our efforts. Zoroa nodded, and used his tail to shake off the curly-eared rabbit. At the same time, he used the force to do a backflip and landed on a piece of ice next to him. Then he used the shadow clone, creating countless phantoms to surround the curly-eared rabbit. What does Xuanjian want to do? Everyone had this doubt in their hearts. The shadow clone is extremely fragile and will disappear after being attacked slightly. The only effect of doing this is to put psychological pressure on the opponent and make the opponent make mistakes. But there is no need to practice this specially. Just when everyone was confused, Zoroa suddenly changed his expression and showed a weird smile. Every person or elf who saw this smile felt that their hair stood up instantly, as if someone was going to do something bad to them, and their hearts were instantly entangled. Is this Ghost Face? Tick recognized this skill, which can scare the opponent and reduce its speed. However, this skill is not very practical. After all, unless the opponent is a particularly timid elf, as long as some willpower training is done, it can be easily immune to the skill. However, Xuanjian's carefully prepared skills were naturally different. After Zoroa used the Ghost Face, the curly-eared rabbit actually trembled, and then began to shiver slightly. What is this? Tick showed a surprised look. Although his curly-eared rabbit looked weak, it was actually a veteran and had experienced many times on the stage of the gorgeous competition. How could it be affected by the skill? Seeing Tick's surprise, Xuanjian showed a smug look. Zoroa is a master of illusion. The visual skills such as the Ghost Face it used are not only calculated based on the power of its body, but also its shadow clones and even the reflections on the ice surface. Surrounded by so many shadow clones and ice reflections, Your curly-haired rabbit was not directly scared to death. It has performed very well. At this time, the camera lens pulled to perspective close to the curly-haired rabbit. Suddenly, countless viewers sitting in front of the TV saw similar but slightly different faces with strange smiles. The camera turned, and people found that these faces seemed to fill the surrounding space. In front, behind, left, right, even inside the ice wall and under the ice, all were Soraya's smiling faces. It seemed that they heard waves of eerie laughter in their ears. A chill suddenly rose from their backs, and their teeth began to tremble. The people watching on TV were so scared that the curly-haired rabbit in the center was even more shocked. As Xuanjian said, it was good enough for it to hold on. Just as people were marveling at Xuanjian's ingenious idea, Xuanjian's voice rang out again. According to scientific research, when people are frightened, adrenaline will be secreted in large quantities, causing the muscles to become excited instantly. This is the body's instinctive reaction to cope with the impending crisis. The elves are the same in this regard, except that the substances acting are different. But whether it is a human or an elf, there is one thing in common, that is, the body that is quickly excited by intense stimulation cannot last long, because it is overloaded, and the muscles will soon fall into a state of weakness, and it will take some time to recover, which manifests itself as a decrease in speed. So, come on, Zoroark, use the seal. A lavender light emanated from Zoroark's body and hit the curly-haired rabbit. Most of the audience didn't understand what happened, but Tick had already applauded and praised, "It's wonderful. The seal's skill can seal the opponent's moves that are the same as yours. What you want is to seal the high-speed movement of the curly-haired rabbit." Xuanjian nodded. Of course, although Zoroark's level is not high, he is very talented and has learned a lot of skills beyond his level. Then there is no way. Come back, curly-haired rabbit, it seems that you will not be able to show your dance. Tick said with some regret. Looking at Tick's movements, Xuanjian frowned, but did not stop him from taking back the curly-haired rabbit. Tick seemed to see Xuanjian's doubts and explained, "It's meaningless. Being attacked by the enhanced version of the ghost face and having its high-speed movement sealed, the curly-haired rabbit has lost its most proud speed and can no longer compete with Zoroark. I admit defeat in this round. But you shouldn't give up just like that. As long as you work hard, there is still a chance to turn the tables." Xuanjian said dissatisfiedly, not only because he was in the middle of a fight, but the opponent suddenly withdrew his troops, which made him unhappy, and he also disagreed with Tick's behavior. "No," Tick shook his head, "according to the scoring method of the grand contest, I have already lost. I am the champion of the grand contest, I can't make any mistakes on this point. But this is not a grand contest. If you give up like this, you are irresponsible to yourself and your Pokémon, and you are also disrespectful to your opponent." Xuanjian frowned and said, "Sorry. I don't agree with the trainer's barbaric fighting style that is destined to lose but still refuses to repent. I want to win this game elegantly in the way of a coordinator. Don't worry, I promise not to use the curly-haired rabbit next time, even if it has not lost its combat effectiveness." Tick said nonchalantly. "What an unpleasant remark." Xuanjian clenched his fists. "I thought you were a different coordinator, but I didn't expect you to be as depraved as those losers. Take out your next Pokémon. I want to let you see the miracle brought by the trainer's will. I always feel that there is a sense of contempt between trainers and coordinators. What do you think?" Chapter 279, Snow and Spring. Shine. Ice Elf. Tick gracefully threw a special ball for the gorgeous competition. The elf ball drew a beautiful arc in the air and landed on the top of an ice block in the center of the venue. Pop! The elf ball opened, and suddenly, a large number of colorful light spots were released, reflecting on the surrounding ice walls, making the entire venue beautiful. But such a beautiful scenery is just a foil. Surrounded by these shining light spots, a nice blue elf appeared in everyone's sight with an elegant posture. What a beautiful elf! What kind of elf is this? The audience was shocked by the beauty of the ice elf and exclaimed, "It's really beautiful." Xuanjian also nodded in agreement. The Eevee clan is indeed worthy of being the face value of the elves. Each one is so beautiful. This ice elf has a slender figure, icy skin and jade bones, noble and cold, as if it is a fairy in a dream, with ice as flesh and blood, and descended to the secular world. Coupled with a carefully arranged appearance show of Tick, the master of the gorgeous competition, it is hard not to amaze the audience. Although trainer duels are rare, The Ice Spirit is a veteran of the Grand Tournament and is very familiar with the competition. As soon as it appeared, the Ice Spirit made full use of the audience's attention and enthusiasm to build a strong aura for itself, looking down at Zoroark from a high position. For a moment, the momentum generated by Zoroark's victory was suppressed. Bingo! Tick snapped his fingers. Perfect show. Next, Ice Spirit, use Hail. After receiving the order, the Ice Spirit raised its head slightly and made a low cry. At the same time, a layer of blue light appeared on its body. By controlling its body temperature, it froze the surrounding air. Then, dark clouds wrapped in ice crystals began to condense in the sky, and the weather skill Hail was activated. In the ice field, Ice Spirits can be blessed, and the weather skill Hail was quickly completed. Olive-sized hailstones soon fell down. Under the attack of the hailstones, the fragile shadow clones were quickly destroyed, leaving Zoroark constantly dodging the hailstones falling from the air. Come back first, Zoroark. Xuanjian took Zoroark back. There was a gap between its strength and that of the Ice Elf, and there was no attribute restrained. It was definitely not the opponent of the Ice Elf in the ice field. After a little thought, Xuanjian threw out his Pokeball. It's decided to be you, Leaf Elf. A flash of light appeared, and a beautiful green Pokemon appeared on the field. Unlike the Ice Elf, its beauty was the kind of beauty with warmth and vitality, which formed a sharp contrast with the cold and solemn beauty of the Ice Elf. Grass-type Leaf Elf. Tick blinked, looking at the two Eevee Pokemons of different evolutions that appeared on the field and said, I thought you would choose a Fire-type Pokemon. Using a Grass-type Pokemon in the ice field is not a wise decision. I know, Xuanjian replied. I do have a Fire-type Pokemon in my hand, but I plan to keep it to deal with your last Pokemon. Besides, the strength of my Leaf Elf is obviously stronger than your Ice Elf, which is enough to make up for the difference in attributes. The Leaf Elf has been following him for a long time, and now it is just stuck at a bottleneck, otherwise he would never let it show up so early. But even if it is stuck by the bottleneck, it is enough to deal with a low-level Ice Elf on the opposite side. Although it is very interesting to see two different evolutions of Eevee fighting on the same field, you made a wrong choice. Although the Ice Elf is not high level, it has been with me for a long time. Tick said, and then ordered, Ice Elf, let him see it. Use Ice Gravel attack. Leaf Elf, be careful to defend it. Xuanjian reminded. He used to feel that it was not worth it for the Ice Elf, such an obvious special attacker, to be equipped with a physical skill such as Ice Gravel. It was not until he gradually understood it that Xuanjian realized that this was his misunderstanding. Ice Gravel. This skill is to instantly create ice cubes and then throw them at the opponent for a preemptive attack. The Ice Elf happens to have a hard and sharp ice needle on its body to protect itself. In order to protect itself, the hair is frozen into hard and sharp ice needles, which can be directly fired when launching an attack. In this way, the attack is launched instantly. In addition, the ice needle has a penetration ability far beyond that of ice cubes. If it were not for its weak physical attack, this move would be absolutely powerful. As soon as Xuanjian finished speaking, dense ice needles shot in front of the Leaf Elf. Fortunately, the Leaf Elf often fights at high speed. Although it cannot reach the highest speed without the blessing of sunlight, its reaction ability has not decreased. It quickly swung the leaves above its head to block all the ice needles. Not bad, what about this? Tick waved his hand and ordered, Ice Elf, add the freezing wind. After receiving the order, the Ice Elf continued to shoot ice needles while blowing out the cold freezing wind. Under the blowing of the freezing wind, the speed of the ice needles was greatly improved. At the same time, it also absorbed the cold air in the freezing wind and further turned into ice pillars. This attack that combines the two skills is not only as powerful as the ultimate skill of Water Cannon, but also far exceeds it in attack density. Leaf Elf, dodge, then rush up to attack. Xuanjian ordered. There were so many ice pillars that it was impossible to take them hard. Moreover, the Ice Elf was a special attacker and the Leaf Elf was a physical attacker. This long-range battle was not good for the Leaf Elf. The Leaf Elf did not disappoint Xuanjian. Even without the blessing of the sunny day, it showed a speed far beyond most elves. It narrowly avoided the dense icicle needles and rushed to the side of the Ice Elf. The leaves on its head suddenly lit up, and it launched a powerful leaf blade at the Ice Elf. Boom! The sharp leaf blade chopped down heavily, and the huge ice block suddenly broke into pieces, turning into a pile of broken ice. Unfortunately, This powerful attack failed to hit the ice elf and was dodged by it. Catch up, keep attacking, Xuanjian ordered. With a poor speed and physical attack of the ice elf, even if this attack missed, as long as it got close, it would only be abused by the leaf elf. But a surprising scene happened. With the speed of the leaf elf, it actually failed to catch up with the ice elf. Instead, it was farther and farther away from it, and finally restored to a safe distance. All the efforts made by the leaf elf just now were in vain. Haha, Tick laughed triumphantly, this is the ice field. If you want to catch up with my ice Pokémon here, your leaf Pokémon is not qualified enough. Hearing Tick's words, Xuanjian frowned, and he also found his mistake. The blessing brought by the ice field is multifaceted. Here, most Pokémons have to be careful to avoid being hit by the slide when running, and it is difficult to exert their full speed. However, Pokémons like ice Pokémons, who are naturally adapted to this environment, are like fish in water, using skating instead of running, which greatly makes up for the shortcomings in speed. In this case, leaf Pokémon, use clearing. Ice Pokémon, use pray for rain. Following the orders of the two trainers, the two Pokémons used their skills at the same time. The dark clouds in the sky were first dispersed by the sudden strong sunlight, and then gathered again under the effect of a blue energy, and then fine raindrops fell. Damn it! The advantage brought by the environment is too great. The weather skills can compete with the opponent. Xuanjian cursed secretly. The weather skills in the real world are not about the later coverage, but whoever is more powerful will be obeyed. The low temperature brought by the ice field amplified the ice elf's prayer for rain and weakened the leaf elf's clearing, so the weather skill competition ended with the opponent's victory. At this time, Tick's voice sounded again, Ice elf, blizzard. No, leaf elf, hide behind the ice and avoid it. The rain brought by the prayer for rain wet the leaf elf's body. If it was hit by the blizzard at this time, it would definitely fall into a frozen state. There were many ice blocks on the field. After hiding in the ice, the leaf elf successfully avoided the blizzard attack and avoided the fate of being frozen. Ice skills cannot destroy ice blocks, and the ice elf has no skills that can destroy the ice and force the leaf elf to use it, so it can only stop attacking. Then, ice elf, use hail again. Tick ordered. Hail can cause damage to non-ice elves. Although not much, it cannot be avoided, and as long as it accumulates slowly, the leaf elf will always run out of physical strength. After receiving the order, the ice elf launched hail again. Perhaps because of the rain prayer as a prelude, this time the hail was more fierce and caused more damage to the leaf elf. Xuanjian knew that this couldn't go on any longer, and immediately ordered, Leaf elf, we have to use our trump card. Use lightning flash. Upon hearing the order, the leaf elf immediately rushed out from behind the ice, launched lightning flash continuously, and rushed towards the ice elf in a Z shape. This advanced move of lightning flash was Xuanjian and his trump card that he had trained hard, but he didn't expect it to be forced out here. The leaf elf that used lightning flash was as fast as a flash of lightning, and the ice elf couldn't find a chance to use blizzard on it. In the constant detours, the leaf elf approached the ice elf again. But Xuanjian didn't have time to be proud, and he heard Tick snap his fingers. Beautiful, you really did it. My painstaking design finally paid off. As he spoke, Xuanjian saw the ice elf's figure gradually disappear, and the leaf elf that had just rushed to it lost its target of attack. Snow hidden characteristic. I thought this ice elf had the characteristic of frozen body. I didn't expect it to be the snow hidden characteristic. Fortunately, I can sense it with the power of Champion, otherwise it would be really troublesome. After all, for a physical attacker, if you can't see the enemy, you naturally can't hit the enemy. That's right, Tick nodded, looking at the leaf elf who was looking around for the disappeared opponent and said, but this is not the end. Next, enjoy the feast I prepared for you. Ice elf, extreme freezing light. The figure of the ice elf reappeared on the top of an ice block not far from the leaf elf, and its whole body was shining with dazzling white light. The leaf elf immediately wanted to dodge, but found that except for the direction of the ice elf, there were smooth ice walls, and these smooth ice walls were concave inward, forming a focusing mirror. Without waiting to observe more, the ice elf's extreme freezing light has arrived. These extreme freezing lights, under the reflection and convergence of the ice wall, have produced a power far beyond the normal value. The leaf elf was immediately frozen without any resistance. How about this move? Tick said proudly, all my previous attacks were preparations for this one. The icicle needles were to build a closed valley, and the rain prayer was to use rain to fill the gap. Next, let the ice elves lure the enemy while polishing the ice wall smooth, and finally get out with a stealth feature. This is how the coordinator fights elegantly. How about it? Have you seen it? What a wonderful tactic. Xuanjian sighed. I lost, but I still stick to my philosophy. Xuanjian was about to signal the staff to help break the ice and rescue the leaf elf. Suddenly, a blade light flashed in the ice, the blade light danced, the ice was cut to pieces, and the shivering body of the leaf elf appeared in front of everyone again. Leaf elf. At this moment, Xuanjian felt the intention of the leaf elf, and his eyes were filled with tears. The leaf elf was trying to prove that his philosophy was correct, so he forced himself to break the ice. Well, since you believe in me so much, I won't let you down. Xuanjian said secretly. I take back what I just said. We have to keep fighting. It's meaningless. What can the leaf elf do in its current state? It has already been exhausted after breaking free from the ice. No, you don't understand. Xuanjian said firmly. Have you seen plants in early spring? Even if the cold ice and snow have not melted completely, or even if they are pressed down by hard boulders, they will not give up. In the end, they will defeat the cold, push away the boulders, and create an almost impossible miracle. If we give up everything because it is impossible, this world will definitely not be so exciting. Leaf elf, release the sun flames around. Golden light rose from the leaf elf and shot around. Following the principle of reversible light path, these lights were gathered together by the surrounding ice walls and gathered on the ice elf according to the trajectory of the extremely cold light. The high temperature brought by the scorching sun immediately made the leaf elf scream. Leaf elf, release all your strength, rush over and use the ultimate impact. Woo! The leaf elf raised its head and let out a cry, and then a faint green light shone on its body. In this green light, the chlorophyll characteristics were activated, and the leaf elf used the highest speed and rushed towards the ice elf. The ice elf wanted to dodge, but his feet slipped and fell to the ground. It turned out that the sunlight and flames not only caused mountains and seas to it, but also melted the ice under its feet. The ice elf was not careful for a moment and suffered a loss. Boom! The powerful ultimate impact hit the fallen ice elf, and then the ice on which it stood was blasted into snowflakes all over the sky. Under this powerful blow, the ice elf immediately lost its combat effectiveness, and then the leaf elf, who was overconsumed, also fell to the ground. The two sides ended in a draw. Explanation of the message in the previous chapter: it is not that the civil and military look down on each other, but a conflict of concepts. In addition, there are more plots about trainer battles. This is because I think that as a young researcher, if you want to do research as you please, you need to have the ability to guarantee it. The quartz conference should be the end of the trainer plot. After that, the researcher's journey will officially begin, and there will be no more gym battles. Please wait patiently. Chapter 280 Tick's Purpose. The leaf elf's counterattack was obviously beyond Tick's expectations. He didn't react until the audience cheered loudly. Come back, Ice Elf. Tick silently took back the Ice Elf and said, I lost. The leaf elf's backbone and perseverance really opened my eyes. In this round, his calculations were not wrong. The accumulated damage of the hail and the powerful freezing light had indeed knocked out the last bit of the leaf elf's physical strength. I didn't expect that the leaf elf could persist with strong faith and perseverance, squeeze out a little strength again, and achieve a victory. It seems that the trainer's philosophy is not without merit. Xuanjian on the opposite side also had the same idea. This time, Tick was a little careless, otherwise with his wonderful tactics, he would definitely lose in the end. The two sides looked at each other and smiled. They saw recognition in each other's eyes. Although with the current games, this participation in the quartz conference is worth it. But I'm sorry, I must win this competition. Tick said as he threw the last Pokeball. Please, Emperor Nabo. The Pokeball opened, and a black whirlwind appeared on the ice. The whirlwind slowly stopped, and a black Pokemon appeared on the ice. It was the water-type starter Pokemon of the Sinnoh region, Emperor Nabo. Emperor Nabo. What a good choice. Xuanjian commented. Emperor Nabo has dual attributes of water and steel. The water type allows it to gain bonuses on ice fields and makes up for its weakness of being restrained by the fire type. The steel type can restrain the ice type that enjoys the greatest bonus on this field. It is the Pokemon that is most suitable for this field. In comparison, The Pokémon on his side are a little weak in these aspects. But it doesn't matter. If you can't borrow strength, just use hard power to resist. I can't lose. Go ahead, Windy Dog. Please. The majestic Windy Dog appeared on the field and stared coldly at Emperor Nabo. Emperor Nabo did not show any weakness and showed his momentum towards Windy Dog. Seeing the two powerful elves, the audience had already shouted desperately, and the referee did not delay and immediately announced the start of the game. Emperor Nabo, use the bubble beam. Tick was the first to order. Xuanjian also ordered, Windy Dog, spray flames. The two elves attacked at the same time, one after the other. The bubble beam had an advantage in attributes, but the power of the sprayed flames was even greater and more concentrated, while the power of the bubble beam was more dispersed. In the end, the sprayed flames overwhelmed the bubble beam and shot at Emperor Nabo. Emperor Nabo, get out of the way. Tick ordered, and then Xuanjian saw Emperor Nabo using the left wing as a fulcrum. His fat body flexibly used it as a fulcrum and gently spun to avoid the attacking flames. It's a bit troublesome. Xuanjian frowned as he looked at the fat but agile Emperor Nabo. Judging from the flexibility that Emperor Nabo had just shown, he should have learned the skating skills like the previous ice elves. In this way, his slowness was greatly compensated, and he could even counter the wind speed dog with his familiarity with the ice field. No wonder Tick said that the ice field was the field he was best at. Just learning to skate greatly improved his strength. After letting the wind speed dog attack, Emperor Nabo immediately ran on the ice. With his skilled skating skills, he easily dodged the wind speed dog's jet flames. He also performed 2 difficult figure skating skills and 1 cheers. Seeing that the opponent was so careless, the wind speed dog was enraged, and his skills turned into a big explosion, but most of them were still successfully dodged by Emperor Nabo. If he couldn't dodge it, Emperor Nabo would use his skills to offset or resist it. For a while, the field completely became Emperor Nabo's performance. This guy. Xuanjian shook his head helplessly. In the eyes of those laymen, Windy Dog had no way to deal with Emperor Nabo, but in fact, as time went by, his advantage was actually accumulated little by little. Not to mention that if you defend for a long time, you will lose. The steel attribute of Emperor Nabo alone reduced its attribute advantage over Windy Dog. Facing the attack of Windy Dog, the damage it received was much higher than that of other water-type elves. However, Xuanjian also understood Tick's approach to some extent. After all, Emperor Nabo was actually very vulnerable to Windy Dog, low physical attack, unable to beat physical melee, high special attack, but poor special attack. Except for the low-hit water cannon, there was no powerful water-type skill to show off. Moreover, Xuanjian also knew that Tick was luring him to attack, with the purpose of trying to transform the ice field into a water field that was more conducive to Emperor Nabo. However, although Xuanjian saw through Tick's tactics, he did not make a statement, because this was exactly what he wanted. He had long been prepared for the tactic of transforming the ice field into a water field, and had prepared countermeasures. He believed that he would give the other party a big surprise in the end. With the joint efforts of both parties, the transformation of the ice field soon took effect. Soon, except for some floating ice, most places were flooded. At this time, due to the limited space for movement, the wind speed dog was no longer as brave as before and was trapped on the floating ice. With a beautiful turn, Emperor Nabo split the wind speed dog's big character explosion with his wings, and used the water cannon to repel the wind speed dog and fell back into the water. Both sides stopped attacking tacitly. Tick said, "Now my tactical arrangement is complete. I am very curious. It is impossible for you to not see through such a simple tactic, Xuanjian. So why don't you stop me? Or do you think you can defeat me, Emperor Nabo, in the water field?" "Of course I am confident that I can defeat you." Xuanjian crossed his arms and said, "If it is a real water field, I dare not guarantee that I can beat you, but this is a water field transformed from an ice field after all, and there is still a big difference between the two. The depth of the ice field is not as deep as the water field, and the volume of ice decreases after melting, so the water in the field is only more than 1 meter, and even Emperor Nabo cannot be completely submerged. Such a water field is really useless. There is indeed a gap, but it is enough. Emperor Nabo, use the whirlpool." Following Tick's order, Emperor Nabo immediately flapped his wings, and the pool water suddenly spun, forming a large whirlpool. The ice floating on it also spun, and the wind speed dog suddenly lost its balance and fell into the water. Faced with such a situation, Xuanjian was not at all flustered, and calmly ordered, "Wind speed dog, jump up, leave the ice, and then use burnout." Boom! Under the power of the whirlpool, the ice was finally torn apart. Wind speed dog quickly jumped up, looking down from above, and used the burnout skill on Emperor Nabo. Emperor Nabo could not dodge such a high-altitude attack, and could only barely control the whirlpool to fight back, but was easily suppressed by the raging flames sprayed by Wind speed dog, and took up most of the power of the skill. The pool water was further heated by the power of burnout, and a large amount of white mist rose, blurring the vision. Beautiful. Xuanjian praised. Wind speed dog, use Thunder Fang next. Wind speed dog has a super sense of smell. Even in the mist, it can judge the direction of the opponent through its nose. Once it fell back into the water, Wind speed dog immediately found Emperor Nabo quickly with the help of its sense of smell, and bit Emperor Nabo's wings fiercely with Thunder Fang. King Nabo, use the water cannon to counterattack. Tick ordered hurriedly, but unfortunately, King Nabo, which was bitten by the lightning fang, was paralyzed by the electric current and could not execute the trainer's order. Then Windy Dog, give King Nabo the final blow, use Crazy Volt. Xuanjian ordered. After receiving the order, golden lightning rose from Windy Dog's body. With a King Nabo bitten on its wings, it slammed into the pool wall fiercely. After a loud bang, it successfully knocked down King Nabo. Well done, Windy Dog. Xuanjian praised the panting Windy Dog. Fire Pokemon do not have outstanding endurance. After melting such a pool of ice and using electrical skills in the water, Windy Dog's physical strength is almost exhausted. Silently taking back the Emperor Nabo, Tick smiled bitterly and said, I lost. I never thought that I would lose the game in an ice-type venue. Xuanjian was silent for a while, then comforted him, you are very strong and can crush most trainers, but probably because you are used to participating in the grand contest, you are not very good at fighting. This is not only reflected in your tendency to use tactics in command and fear of big battles, but also in the lack of perseverance in your Pokemon. With skills like Thunder Fang just now, my Pokemon can survive with perseverance and not reach the point where they cannot use skills. This shows that your Pokemon lack training. Tick nodded and said, I've learned something. It seems that my competition journey has come to an end, and my plan cannot be realized. Purpose. Well, Tick nodded, I'm actually not very interested in the battles between trainers. The purpose of my participation is just to show the charm of the coordinator, so as to promote the grand contest in Kanto. But if I lose in the preliminary round, the plan will completely fail. Xuanjian remained silent. Although Tick's purpose was noble, everyone had their own ambitions. He could not give up the competition just to fulfill him. After thinking for a while, Xuanjian suggested, although your plan has failed, there is still room for recovery. The live broadcast is still going on. Why don't you present a wonderful and gorgeous competition performance for everyone here? Tick's eyes lit up and nodded, that makes sense. Then he threw the Pokeball on his waist. Come out, Golduck. Speaker Cricket. The show begins. Ha. Golduck landed in a handsome posture, and then the gem on his forehead lit up, and he used his telekinesis to gather the water in the pool into a water ball, letting the Speaker Cricket fall to the bottom of the pool. Then he sprayed white freezing light at the Speaker Cricket. At the same time, the Speaker Cricket also moved, playing beautiful music while guiding the freezing light to fall on the water ball with his knife feet. From the water ball, an ice sculpture with a logo of the Quartz Conference condensed, and then jumped into it. I don't know what special structure this ice sculpture has. After the Speaker Cricket moved in, its music was immediately amplified and became more complex, making the audience fall into it. Then, Goth the Duck came to the ice sculpture plate with walled steps, lifted the ice sculpture, and shot out a phantom light from the gem on his forehead and injected it into it. Suddenly, the beautiful and mysterious light of the phantom light was immediately refracted by the ice sculpture and scattered all over the venue, causing the audience to exclaim. Tick bowed to the boiling audience and said, Thank you for appreciating my performance. I am the coordinator Tick. 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 The audience was moved by the beautiful scenery in front of them, forgot about the game, and cheered for Tick wholeheartedly. Xuanjian smiled and left the venue silently. Next, it was the time for the coordinator Tick, and there was no need for him to stay here to grab the spotlight. Chapter 281 Intruder. On a quiet night, the Quartz Plateau, which had been bustling all day, gradually returned to its tranquility. Both the hard-working trainers and the intoxicated tourists fell asleep to relieve the fatigue of the day. Of course, not all places are like this, such as the noisy bars, the roadside barbecue stalls, and Xiaobo's experimental base. Although it is an abandoned military base converted into an experimental base, the equipment inside is very complete. Not only is there a special laboratory, but also supporting facilities such as a medical room. At this time, Xuanjian and Yato were anxiously waiting at the door of the medical room. Finally, the lights in the medical room went out. Seeing this, Xuanjian immediately went up without waiting for the door to open. "Miss Joey, how are you?" Xuanjian couldn't wait to ask Joey, who had just walked out of the medical room. "No big problem," Joey said as she took off her mask, revealing a face that was made up but still couldn't hide the obvious signs of aging. This Joey is not the active Joey of the Pokémon Center, but an old Joey who has retired. The Pokémon Center was full because of the large number of trainers it accepted. Although he could get priority treatment as a talented trainer, the busy Joey certainly couldn't take care of his injured leaf Pokémon wholeheartedly, so Xuanjian, with the help of Yato, found the retired Joey through Xiaobo's channel to help. It's easier to get things done with connections, which is not uncommon in any world. "That's good." Xuanjian breathed a sigh of relief and said. After the battle with Ding, the leaf Pokémon was injured and lost its combat effectiveness. Xuanjian didn't care too much about it. After all, this kind of injury is not uncommon for Pokémons who often fight. However, the matter was beyond Xuanjian's expectations. Although the leaf Pokémon's injury was not very serious, it did not wake up after treatment and recovery. In panic, Xuanjian could only ask Yato to find this old Joey for help. "Why is the leaf Pokémon unconscious?" Yato asked. "Not unconscious, but drowsy," Joey corrected, and walked to a chair and sat down. As she got older, her physical strength was not as good as before, and such a simple check made her feel a little tired. "Alice, time is not forgiving. Back then, I was a workaholic who performed surgeries for 3 consecutive nights and was still energetic." After pounding his numb legs, Joey continued to explain. "Coma means complete loss of consciousness, while lethargy means that the consciousness is still there, but it is just in a deep sleep, and it must be strongly stimulated to wake up. There is a big difference between the two." After saying this, Joey cleared his throat and looked around. Xuanjian immediately took out a prepared health tea and handed it to Joey. Joey gave Xuanjian an appreciative look with satisfaction, and then said, "But the situation of the leaf elf is a little different from ordinary lethargy. After all, its body is healthy and its consciousness is intact. It is more like, well, how to say it? Hibernation." Xuanjian guessed. Joey nodded, then shook his head and said, "It's a bit like that, but not really. After all, if it hibernates, its metabolic rate will be very low, but the leaf elf's metabolic rate is very fast. I just asked the little girl Duogi to prepare a nutrient solution suitable for the leaf elf. After all, if it is not given some nutrient solution, its body may not be able to hold on soon." "Is it enough to just give it nutrient solution?" Xuanjian asked. He also knew some medical knowledge. If it is only maintained by nutrient solution for a long time, there will be many adverse effects. "Are you questioning my professional level?" Joey looked at Xuanjian dissatisfiedly. Xuanjian laughed quickly. No. Your level is beyond doubt. I'm just a little worried." "This is not a compliment. After all, the doctor's profession is more valuable as you get older, but it's just that you are limited by your physical strength and energy as you get older." Hearing Xuanjian's compliment, Joey was satisfied and didn't care about it anymore. He took a sip of the health tea and explained, "Creatures like leaf elves have low food intake. They can survive only on water and sunlight. Some nutrient solution is enough. Besides, the leaf elf's condition is not serious. Even if it is not given nutrient solution, the energy stored in its body will be consumed, and it will wake up naturally when it feels hungry. I give it nutrient solution just to let it sleep quietly for a while." "Sleep for a while?" Xuanjian blinked, a little confused. "Well," Joey nodded and said, "this child hasn't had a good sleep for a long time. It's time to let it have a good rest." "But it sleeps every day?" Xuanjian asked in confusion. "Ouch." Joey took back the hand that knocked Xuanjian's head and said, "This is the manifestation of young people's lack of experience. What you said is the sleep calculated according to the rest time of other elves. Leaf elves are grass elves. They like to be quiet and don't like to move. Their sleep time is much longer. Most other grass elves are the same. Except that they may be more lively and active in their childhood, most of them like to be quiet and don't like to move after adulthood. So that's it. Xuanjian nodded, suddenly realized that the plants represented by the grass type are originally like this. Then, Xuanjian sighed again in his heart. These things are rarely mentioned in books. It takes a lot of experience to obtain them. Although his accumulation is not weak, it is still weaker than Joey, who has been dealing with elves for a lifetime. Just now when I was checking, I found that the leaf elf is undergoing a slow transformation. Maybe when it wakes up, it will be very different. Joey continued. That's great. Xuanjian said happily. He naturally understood the meaning of Joey's words. In other words, the leaf elf was breaking through the Heavenly King level at this time. Thank you, Miss Joey. Xuanjian thanked sincerely. Joey waved her hand and said, You're welcome. I'm also very happy to be able to return to my old job. By the way, don't use the title of Miss. After all, I'm so old. Call me Auntie. Xuanjian smiled and was about to say something like no, you will always be so young in my heart. When a shrill alarm suddenly came from the experimental area on the other side. It's the anti-theft system alarm. Someone invaded the experimental area. Yato said. What? Xuanjian jumped up immediately after hearing this, turned around and rushed over. The experimental area not only had various precious experimental materials and research materials, but also several of his own elves were placed there. Wait for me, Yato said, and then looked at Joey. Joey said, I'm too old to cause trouble, but leave this to me. Okay, thank you. Yato said, and then quickly chased after Xuanjian. I'm tired of writing about the quartz competition, so let's insert another plot. Here's a paragraph about researchers, showing the importance of some strength. Chapter 282 Invaders. Time goes back to an hour ago. It was already dark, but the hustle and bustle on the quartz plateau had not subsided at all. In addition to those trainers who had competitions tomorrow who went to bed early, those trainers who lost the competitions and foreign tourists were all reveling and venting under the cover of night. People were immersed in the noise, and no one noticed that a group of people in black were approaching a base under the cover of the noisy crowd. Captain Shikira, we're here. According to the original design of this base, this is the easiest place to sneak in. A man in black holding a tablet said respectfully. Well, Shikira nodded and said, I'll sneak in, you cover me. Yes, everyone said, with excitement flashing in their eyes. I have heard that Captain Shikira is extraordinary, but I have never had the chance to see him. Today I can finally open my eyes. But it seems that this mission today is really important, otherwise he would not have taken action personally as soon as he arrived. While everyone was thinking, Shikira had already taken action. He stepped back slightly, took a run up, came to the outside of the wall, bent his knees lightly and jumped high with amazing jumping ability. Then he flexibly changed his posture in the air and passed through the outermost defensive electric net. Passing through the electric net does not mean a successful infiltration. When Shikira just crossed the wall, a flash of lightning suddenly shot out from the blind spot of vision. It was an electromagnetic gun used for defense. If he was shot, he would not be hurt too much, but his body would be paralyzed. Ball of string. Shikira shouted softly, and then a palm-sized ball of string poked out from his collar, shooting out a white silk thread, successfully intercepting the lightning, and at the same time, he took advantage of the victory to wrap the muzzle and sensor port of the electromagnetic gun, making it unable to attack again. The threat was lifted, but Shikira did not relax, but quickly took out a gray Pokeball from his waist, threw it forward, and then adjusted his posture. At the moment of landing, he jumped up again, crossed the wall again, and returned to the outside of the wall. As soon as he left the landing point, paralysis bullets, capture nets and other traps were fired from all directions, but unfortunately only an afterimage was caught. Outside the wall, Shikira, who had just finished an intense exercise, was not in a mess at all. In the admiring eyes of his subordinates, he said lightly, it seems that after taking over this base, the other party has added a lot of defense facilities. Dagu, how is the situation inside? The man called Dagu, who was holding the tablet just now, immediately replied after hearing the words, according to the information sent back by the transmitter on the solid ball has successfully withstood the opponent's attack, successfully crossed the defense zone, and reached a safe area. Shikira nodded. This was not unexpected to him. After all, this was a special Pokéball. Not only could it allow the Pokémon to exert a certain strength without being summoned, but it was also extremely difficult to destroy. Then what about information interception? All interceptions were successful. Dagu answered somewhat proudly. Although the opponent's defense system responded as soon as the intrusion was discovered, the alarm information was intercepted by our hackers as soon as it was sent out. We also took the opportunity to hack into the opponent's entire defense system. There is no way. Although the opponent's early warning program is indeed excellent, but who made this base build a backdoor in the defense system? Don't be too careless. This mission is very critical. There can't be any leaks. Shikira warned, but his tone did not take it too seriously. After all, the high level of this mission is only because it is a bit shameful and it is not suitable to leak information. In fact, the danger is not great, at least it is much worse than the last time. Captain, you are too careful. Dagu replied nonchalantly, if the last mission was not too dangerous, our Pidgeot would either die or be disabled. There would be no need to infiltrate for this kind of mission. We can just conduct an airstrike directly. Although he agreed with Dagu's words in his heart, Shikira knew that he could not allow this contemptuous mentality to spread, and shouted loudly, "Stop talking nonsense, and move on to the next step." Dagu shrugged, made a helpless expression, and then gently pressed a virtual button on the tablet screen. After pressing it, the display interface immediately changed and switched to a camera's perspective. In the camera's perspective, a gray Pokéball was lying quietly on the ground, and then the indicator light in the center suddenly lit up, and then suddenly opened, and a telekinetic clay doll ran out of it. The telekinetic clay doll floating in the air turned its head and looked around. After confirming that it was safe, a light purple light immediately appeared on its body, and then its figure blurred for a while, and then appeared outside the wall. At the same time, the people outside the wall were exchanged in and appeared at the location where the telekinetic clay doll was before, which was the skill exchange site. Safe landing, Dagu said proudly. So what if we have an anti-instant mobile device? We entered easily. Don't talk nonsense, go to the computer and copy the data, and the others will take away the valuable experimental materials, especially the materials and research results left by the ancient Pokémon last time, take them away without leaving anything. Shikira ordered, and then everyone started to act and began to steal the data and precious experimental materials in the laboratory. These people were well trained. In this process, not only did they not trigger any alarms, but they also did not destroy any experimental materials. Soon, all the team members except Dagu completed their work. Because of the space equipment, they looked no different from when they came. Dagu, are you still not done? Shikira urged. Wait a minute. Dagu wiped the sweat from his forehead fiercely and said, I encountered a little trouble here. The last level cannot be broken and the data cannot be copied. Shikira frowned when he heard this. Although Dagu was the only one present, there were dozens of top hackers behind him to support him. There was no reason why he couldn't break such a defense. With doubts in his mind, Shikira naturally would not hold back, and walked over to ask, what's going on? Dagu moved his body to the side, revealing the monitor that was constantly jumping wildly, and said, I don't know, God knows how this firewall is set up, all our attacks were swallowed up, and there was no effect. This is fucking unscientific. Shikira frowned and said, get out of the way. Huh? Boss, aren't you a computer idiot? Dagu complained, but still obediently made way. Shikira took a look at the computer and said, Line Ball, I have to trouble you again. Oh, boss, although I know that your line ball is very high level, it doesn't mean that it can use computers. Shikira and the line ball ignored Dagu's nonsense. The line ball lying on Shikira's shoulder raised its head slightly and sprayed a pool of purple venom. As Dagu shouted, boss, violence can't solve the problem, the computer in front of him was corroded by the venom of the line ball. Oh my god. Boss, what have you done? God bless the memory stick not to be corroded, otherwise how can we steal the data? This computer is not connected to the internet. Dagu beat his chest and cried out in pain. Shut up. Shikira scolded, staring at the computer that was corroded into a pile of rags by the venom. There, a strange-shaped elf was showing up. It's you. 3D dragon, no wonder they can't break through the last defense. For you who can eat all the data, I'm afraid the hackers' methods are useless. Hand over the data. Being forced out of the computer caused 3D Dragon to be seriously injured, which made it have a very bad impression of Shikira. After hearing what Shikira said, It immediately responded with Phantom Light, but unfortunately it was not good at fighting, and its attack was easily blocked by the ball of string. Just surrender. If I wasn't afraid that I would hurt you and damage the data, you would have lost your combat effectiveness long ago. Shikira threatened. In response, 3 rays of light of different colors attacked him. This was a powerful skill mastered by 3D Dragon, Triple Attack. Besides its own power, it would also put the opponent into a negative state. Shikira did not dare to let the ball take the attack. He quickly bent down to avoid the attack. His agile movements fully demonstrated his superb fighting skills. Unfortunately, 3D Dragon's target was not him. Woo woo woo. 3D Dragon's attack fell on the ceiling, and immediately triggered a hidden alarm. This alarm was an old trigger alarm, which was not connected to the internet, and naturally was not controlled by hackers. Once it was triggered by 3D Dragon's attack, it immediately issued a shrill siren. Damn it! Shikira's face darkened. He did not expect that he was careless for a moment and suffered such a big loss. Looking around, he found that while everyone was stunned, 3D Dragon had no idea where to hide. Shikira could only order angrily, the action is exposed. The original plan is cancelled and changed to Plan B. Prepare for battle. I'm better now. I'll make up for it for everyone immediately. Chapter 283 Summoning Failure. The experimental area was not far from the medical room. Xuanjian and Yato quickly arrived at the experimental area. They were greeted by Shikira, who already had a polite smile on his face. After taking a glance at the experimental area, Xuanjian found that the LZ stored here had not been touched. He breathed a sigh of relief, and then heard, "Hello, Mr. Xuanjian, we meet again. Oh, who are you?" Xuanjian looked at Shikira, who greeted him with a confused look on his face. Our thieves so bold now? Not only did he not hide or escape after being discovered, but he also took the initiative to greet the owner. Shikira's face did not change at all, and he continued to say, "I am Shikira, the captain of the Alliance Special Operations Team. We met before at the excavation site of the super ancient civilization." "Ah, I remember, sorry." Xuanjian then remembered that the two did meet once, but because the clothes and figures of the Special Operations Team members at that time were not much different, the recognition was not high, so he forgot. "But even if you are from the Special Operations Team, you need to give me a reasonable explanation for breaking into private homes, especially laboratories." Shikira did not look embarrassed at all when faced with Xuanjian's question. For the Special Operations Team, embarrassment was an unnecessary emotion. All they needed to do was to complete the mission seriously. For the sake of the mission, they had done things that were more shameful and violated the laws of the Alliance. Naturally, they would not feel embarrassed about such a small matter as breaking into private homes. The only thing that annoyed them was that the secret operation that was supposed to leave no trace had turned into a direct contact that would give people a handle. But these were all minor issues. Since he was not embarrassed by his behavior, there was no need to explain. Shikira said, "Since you remembered my identity and you know our reputation, please let the 3D Dragon hand over your experimental data to us. The Alliance will remember your contribution." Xuanjian curled his lips and sneered, "It's shameless enough to rob other people's experimental results and still speak so righteously. The Alliance will remember my contribution, but I don't know how much it will be. Will someone take away most of the results that originally belonged to me?" Shikira put away his smile and his face became serious. "Talking to smart people is trouble-free, but you should know that the Special Operations Team is not restricted by the laws of the Alliance. We have the right to deal with precious materials with great scientific research value such as the living tissue of Pokémon from super ancient civilizations. If you are smart enough, there are some things that you just need to know, and there is no need to say it out loud, which will make everyone lose face. We will also ask the other party not to be too ruthless. After eating the meat, we will leave some bones and soup for you." Xuanjian shook his head and said, "I don't know if I'm smart enough, but I can't tolerate the fact that I have to give up my own meat to others and can only eat some leftover soup. You are not restricted by the law when you act, which means you are not protected by the law. So no matter what I do to you, it does not violate the rules of the Alliance, right?" Shikira narrowed his eyes, and a smile flashed in his eyes. "That's the truth, but I really want to know, what do you want to do to us?" "Nothing." Xuanjian put his hand on his waist and took out a Pokeball. "I just want to see if you have the ability to take my meat away from my mouth. Go, Zbat!" Xuanjian threw the Pokeball first. intending to strike first and take down the opponent as soon as possible. After all, this is his experimental base. If a fierce battle occurs, it will cause serious damage and huge losses. But an unexpected situation happened. The Pokeball fell directly to the ground. Although the indicator light in the center kept flashing, it did not mean to turn on at all. What's going on? Xuanjian was stunned. The indicator light was on, indicating that the elves were willing to come out, but they were trapped in the elf ball and couldn't get out. This situation can only happen if the safety lock on the elf ball is closed. But he didn't close the safety lock on the elf ball at all. The safety lock was originally designed to prevent those elves that are not so obedient, in order to prevent the elves from escaping from the elf ball on their own. Xuanjian's elves are very obedient, so Xuanjian usually doesn't use this function. It's a forced shutdown command. Yato said, as long as the elf ball is produced by the Alliance, a hidden safety lock will be added before it leaves the factory. This lock will not be activated under normal circumstances. Only when the person who has mastered the corresponding forced shutdown command issues a forced shutdown command, this lock will be activated and lock the elf ball. The elf ball is very fragile from the outside, and most elves can destroy it, but it is very strong from the inside, and most elves are difficult to destroy. Although the elf ball can be destroyed from the outside to release the elf, such a delay at a critical moment may cause serious consequences. This is why many forces have their own special elf balls. Damn it! Xuanjian cursed. These guys are really capable. No wonder they dare to come here and make trouble. Let me do it, Yato said. Go ahead, natural bird. Yato threw out an orange-yellow Pokeball, which was obviously not a customized version of the league, so it was naturally not restricted. It's useless, string ball. Shikira ordered. The string ball poked its head out from in front of Shikira's collar again, sprayed a ball of white sticky silk thread into the air, accurately hitting the Pokeball thrown by Yato, wrapping it tightly, making the Pokeball completely unable to open. Seeing that the summoning failed again, Xuanjian had to admit that he was careless on his side, and the opponent was not simple. Just when Xuanjian was at a loss, Xuanjian saw Yato winking at him to let him delay time, so he said, forced shutdown instructions, skills specifically targeting Pokeballs, you are well prepared. It seems that this is not the first time you have done this. There is no way, there are too many big shots who need us to do these shady things. It's a headache for us too. We can't use heavy hands to deal with guys like you. We spent a lot of effort to research these methods. Shikira stroked the ball of string in his palm and said, my ball of string was specially cultivated for this. For this, it sacrificed the opportunity to evolve. With the shooting speed of the ball of string, you won't have a chance to summon elves. Give up, don't force us to use violence. That's not necessarily true, Yato said suddenly, Madam Huoji, the petals are falling. As soon as the voice fell, a white flower lady appeared in front of Yato and Xuanjian, and rolled up a white flower rain to blow towards Shikira and his party, forcing them to panic, and at the same time destroyed the locked Pokeball and released a crossbit. The crossbit was very angry about being locked, and immediately launched a series of cross-poison blades to attack the enemy. Shikira was worthy of being the captain, and he actually took on the two attacks of the crossbit with his hands, and there was no sign of poisoning. Stopping the crossbit who was about to continue attacking, Xuanjian looked at Shikira and said, now the situation seems to have turned around. Tell me the mastermind behind you, and I can let you leave, otherwise you will stay here as guests. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Unexpected Intervention. After regaining the initiative, Xuanjian breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Madame Huoji of Yato did not like to stay in the Pokeball, but liked to live in the garden, otherwise he would be passive. Now that he has summoned a Pokemon, he can cover the subsequent Pokemon summoning. However, Xuanjian did not want to do it. After all, there are many expensive experimental equipment here. If a battle is carried out here, it will definitely cause serious losses. Shikang also has the same idea. On the one hand, because the team suffered serious losses in combat power after being beaten by the giant Jengar and Alakazam last time, on the other hand, this operation was a secret operation, and letting the parties know was already the limit. If a fierce battle occurred, it would inevitably attract Xuanjian and let more people notice it. Then this operation would not only fail completely, but also expose the fact of discord within the alliance. For these reasons, both sides were very restrained and did not summon Pokémon with strong destructive power. Instead, they always focused on limiting the struggle between the two sides to the level of fighting wits and courage. But even so, the fight between the two sides was so fierce that it was hard to breathe. The first to launch the attack were the members of the Special Operations Team. They tried to draw their weapons to attack, but Yato reacted faster than them. As soon as they made a move, Yato immediately ordered Madame Huaji to use the Vine Whip to interrupt their movements and tie them up. However, although Madame Huaji acted quickly, after all, the opponent had a large number of people, and some fish still slipped through the net. One of the members was a member named Dagu. He did not launch an attack first, but lay on the ground first, and happened to dodge Madame Huaji's Vine Whip attack. Then, Dagu rolled on the ground continuously, dodging the attack and throwing a smoke bomb. Suddenly, black smoke filled the entire room and blocked everyone's sight. Taking advantage of the cover of the smoke, Dagu took out the Pokeball and was about to summon the Pokémon. As long as the Pokémon was summoned, he could quickly turn the disadvantage around. Thinking of this, Dagu's face unconsciously showed a trace of relief, but this trace of relief was soon interrupted by the severe pain in his arm. It turned out that the crossbit, which could locate by sound, discovered his intention and attacked Deco under the cover of smoke, snatching Deco's Pokeball and causing his summoning to fail. Although his vision was obscured by the smoke, Shikira still found that the crossbit that had been staring at him had left with the intuition cultivated by his rich combat experience. Then, Shikira decisively attacked Xuanjian. As long as the trainer was caught, no matter how powerful the Pokémon was, it would be useless. Although Xuanjian sensed Shikira's movements with the power of Takawa was not good at perception. Xuanjian's reaction was half a beat slower, and his fighting experience was far inferior to that of a master like Shikira, so he only had time to raise his arms to block Shikira's flying kick. The moment his arms touched Shikira's legs, Xuanjian felt a strong force coming from his arms, and was kicked back and fell to the ground. At this moment, Xuanjian really felt a gap between himself and the top fighters. In coordination with Shikira's attack, the threadball fired a large amount of silk threads in one breath, covering the fallen Xuanjian on the ground, temporarily unable to move. Seeing that the attack was successful, Shikira immediately went forward to capture Xuanjian. Fortunately, at this time, Yato discovered the situation here and immediately came to block Shikira. Then the crossbat also ended the attack and returned to Xuanjian. Together with Yato, he repelled Shikira and then used the steel wing to help Xuanjian release the spider web. In a flash, the two sides completed a round of attacks, but it did not have much impact on the situation. Although several members of the Special Operations Team were captured by Madame Huaji, these were not the main combat force and had little impact. Instead, Madame Huaji had to keep a close eye on them to avoid being exploited and being completely dragged down. Good skills, Shikira said to Yato while trying to find an opportunity. No match for you, Yato replied, staring at Shikira closely, fearing that he would take advantage of the opportunity. The bat next to him was also on guard against Dagu, who was still able to move, and the others who were tied up, not giving them the opportunity to summon spirits. Suddenly, a sinister laugh sounded, and the two sides who were confronting each other became nervous at the same time, thinking that it was the other party's trick, but then they denied this guess from the suspicion in each other's eyes. As the laughter sounded, a dark purple mist surged from outside the experimental area, gathered together at the entrance of the experimental area, and completely blocked the road. Shikira and Yato looked at each other, and after confirming again that it was not the other party's trick, Yato asked, "Who's there?" "Hehe." A strange laugh came from the dark purple mist, and then a strong Jengar appeared in the mist, and then an old woman with a cane and an arbok beside her also walked out of the mist. "It's me. There are so many of you here. Do you mind if I come to join in the fun?" Although the other party acted as if she was just here to make some noise, no one present dared to underestimate her, because they all recognized the identity of the visitor, the oldest of the four heavenly kings of Kanto, the ghost-type heavenly king Grandma Kakuko. "I wonder what King Kakuko is doing here." Seeing King Kakuko, Yato gave up the confrontation with Shikira and asked Kakuko respectfully. Kakuko, who had summoned two ace spirits, could easily crush everyone present, so resistance was meaningless. In addition, King Kikuko had a good reputation in the alliance except for his strange temper, so Yato was very respectful to him. Kikuko didn't sell her crown, and said directly, "I heard that there are some things I need here, so I came to visit you shamelessly. I didn't expect it to be so lively here." While Kikuko was talking, her Jenga walked to a special operations team member who was tied up by Madame Huaji, pulled off the space bag on his waist, and took out a large bottle of dark purple liquid. Yato immediately recognized that it was the essence that he and Xuanjian extracted from the tissue left by the giant Jenga. Jenga floated back to Kikuko with the bottle in his arms and handed it to Kikuko. Kikuko took it, looked at it, and said, "It's really a rare good thing. Do you mind giving it to me?" Yato hesitated and looked at Xuanjian on the side. This thing is not only precious but also hard to come by, but a king of heaven cannot be offended casually, so he couldn't make a decision. Xuanjian didn't hesitate for too long and quickly said, "Of course, no problem. But may I ask you a question?" "King Kikuko, what do you want this thing for?" Kikuko didn't answer, but asked, "Why do you ask?" "This thing comes from Jenga of the super ancient civilization, and it is an extremely precious treasure. These things have two uses. One is to enhance the strength of ghost-type Pokémon, and the other is to study Pokémon of super ancient civilization. If it is the latter, I am willing to offer it with both hands. If it is the former, although I am willing to give it to you, I have to say it is such a waste." "Oh," King Kikuko narrowed his eyes, "although I agree with what you said, unfortunately, the use I need is the latter. After all, this kind of treasure that can enhance the strength of ghost-type Pokémon without sequelae is really rare. In addition to being the Ghost King of Kanto, Kikuko has another identity, the patriarch of the ghost-controlling clan who controls ghost-type Pokémon. Although it is also a leading family, the Yuga clan has a serious shortage of talent, so Kikuko came to ask for the extract. After all, this kind of treasure that can enhance strength and has no side effects is too precious. If that's the case, I have a better suggestion." Xuanjian paused and continued, "These extracts are not only in small quantities, but also used a little bit less. If they are used directly to enhance the strength of the elves, they may not be very sufficient. If we use them for research, we can develop a potion with the same effect. In this case, you can use it however you want. What do you think?" Kikuko smiled, "Are you kidding me? Is it so easy to develop this potion? I'm a genius scientist. And we already have a clue. If I fail, all the blame will be on me," Xuanjian said with a stiff face. In fact, not only is his talent fake, but even the clues he has for research are fake. Most of his energy has been spent on the Quartz Conference during this period, and his research has just started. Perhaps Xuanjian's past experience was too convincing. Kikuko was silent for a while, and finally took away half of the extract and left the other half. "Boy, I will trust you once, but I can't leave all of this to you. I will take half of it, otherwise I will have come here in vain." Then she took away half of the extract. Then, Kikuko looked at the special operations team members on the side and said, "You guys should withdraw too. Remember that you are members of the alliance, not dogs for a single person or family. Since that kind of trash has no talent, don't waste precious materials in vain." Kikuko's ruthless words made Shikura and his party blush, but they dared not complain at all. They could only return all the things they had stolen before, and then bowed silently and withdrew. Kikuko did not stay for long, and then left with her elf, so the whole incident ended so dramatically, leaving Yato and Xuanjian smiling bitterly at each other. I fainted from illness, and the chapter number was typed wrong. Thank you book friends for reminding me. Chapter 285, 2 consecutive wins. Centipede King, defend against Scythe's attack, and then use poison spikes. Xuanjian was fighting in the grass field. The opponent sent out a Scythe in the first round. This Scythe was well trained, but it was far from enough to fight Xuanjian. Not long after the start of the game, it was poisoned by the Centipede King because of many close combats with the Centipede King. Its physical strength was about to be exhausted. After receiving the order, the Centipede King twisted its long body and blocked a slash from the Scythe with its tail. With its superior strength, it forced it back. Then it let out a hissing sound, and purple poison needles spurted out of its mouth and sank into the ground covered with the green grass. As soon as the poison needles sank into the ground, the nearby green grass immediately died, and its toxicity was obvious. Too strong. Seeing that the Centipede King blocked the attack of his scythe and buried the poison needles to plot against the elves that appeared later, Xuanjian's opponent couldn't help but feel desperate. There was no way. Even at the fastest speed, his scythe was still weaker than his opponent, the Centipede King, not to mention that after being poisoned, the scythe's condition was getting worse and worse. Xuanjian ignored his opponent's psychological activities. After seeing the Centipede King use the poison spike, he immediately continued to order, "Centipede King, use Venom Shock." Under the careful cultivation of himself and Duoge, the Centipede King not only completely made up for the defect of weak toxicity, but also had sufficient venom. Generally, the Centipede King would use up all the venom after using 4 to 5 Venom Shocks, while Xuanjian's Centipede King could use at least 8 Venom Shocks. A large amount of venom sprayed onto the scythe, immediately triggering the toxins in the scythe's body. Under the double attack from inside and outside, the scythe let out a whine and then fell down powerlessly. The scythe lost its combat effectiveness, and the Centipede King won. The referee announced. Silently retracting the scyther, looking at the poisonous spikes all over the ground and the Centipede King who seemed to be more and more energetic, Xuanjian's opponent sighed and raised his hand to the referee. "Referee, I give up." Hearing someone give up, the audience was disappointed at first, but then they felt it was natural. After all, everyone could see that the gap in strength between the two sides was too big. After further confirmation, the referee finally announced, "A Fey player gives up, and the winner of this game is Xuanjian." After the routine handshake and reconciliation with the opponent, Xuanjian did not stay and left the venue directly. As soon as he left the venue, Yatuo, Shota and Duoji immediately came up to him. "Congratulations on your victory again." Yatuo patted Xuanjian on the shoulder and said, "Thank you." Xuanjian replied lightly, without much emotional fluctuation in his tone. "You are not on the right state. It's not good for you to go on like this." Yatuo said. It can be seen that what happened last night had a great impact on Xuanjian. "Yes, I know." Xuanjian nodded absent-mindedly, while twisting the drink bottle handed over by Duoge. Bang! The drink bottle was twisted flat, and the drink spilled all over Xuanjian and Yatuo. Xuanjian came to his senses and said, "Oh, sorry, there's something wrong with the drink bottle. You twisted it the wrong way." Duoge pointed out helplessly. Xuanjian then noticed that he twisted it the wrong way, and because he didn't twist it open, he kept increasing the force, and finally used too much force, causing the whole bottle to be twisted flat, and the drink was squeezed out. Xuanjian shook his head, without saying much, stuffed the twisted drink bottle into the trash can beside him, and said, "I'm going back first." He ignored the 3 people and left, leaving the 3 people looking at each other helplessly. "Oh, it's really unlucky. I had to encounter such bad luck last night. This has a huge impact on Xuanjian's game state," Shota said. After getting along with him, he knew that Xuanjian was the kind of person who is very proud. Even if the person was the king of Kikuko, Xuanjian still couldn't accept that his precious experimental materials were taken away. He was angry in his heart, which affected his state. In today's game, Xuanjian did not follow the previous training warm-up plan at all, but directly took out most of his strength. Coupled with the invisible pressure brought by the king level, the opponent would give up after losing a game cleanly. Although it seems that the results of the battle are much more brilliant than before, it actually helps Xuanjian very little, and even exposes most of his strength in advance, disrupting the previous deployment. Yes, if this continues, you can still rely on strength to crush in the early stage, but it will be dangerous in the later stage when you meet opponents with a small level difference. Duoge also said worriedly. "Don't worry too much," Yatuo comforted, "Xuanjian will definitely be able to adjust." Although he said so, Yato's worries were not reduced at all. He said so only because several people had no way to help Xuanjian, and he didn't want Duoge and Xiang to worry too much. "I hope you can adjust as soon as possible," Yatuo said silently in his heart. However, Yatuo was destined to be disappointed. Until the next game, Xuanjian still couldn't adjust. Although it seemed that Xuanjian had regained his calm and relaxed expression in the past, everyone read the huge waves that were forcibly suppressed from this calm like the sea. "What should I do?" Duoge asked Yatuo and Xiangta. "I can't do anything," Yatuo shook his head, "but it seems to be better than last time, at least the pressure of the king level is hidden. Today's opponent is not strong either, there should be no problem, let's watch the game first." Today's game was held in the water field. Xuanjian sent out the steel arm cannon shrimp in the first round, and the opponent sent out a giant claw crab. Giant crab, use foam attack. This round, the opponent attacked first. As soon as the referee announced, the contestant named Zhang Yu could not wait to launch an attack. Facing the foam sprayed by the giant crab, the steel-armed cannon shrimp simply raised its huge right arm and blocked it with its thick shell without suffering any damage. Xuanjian shook his head and said, "Too weak, how can this attack be enough? Steel-armed cannon shrimp, show the opponent our strength and use the most powerful water wave." Upon receiving the order, the steel-armed cannon shrimp raised its giant claws, and suddenly a large amount of pool water was sucked into it, and the water level in the pool even dropped to half. The pool water was constantly rotating and compressed in the giant claws, and finally it was violently sprayed out towards the giant crab. These rotating water flows formed a huge vortex, which engulfed the giant crab, and it kept spinning and accelerating in it like clothes thrown into a washing machine. Finally, it was thrown out because of its high speed, and fell heavily outside the venue, and directly lost its combat effectiveness. The giant crab lost its combat effectiveness, and the steel-armed cannon shrimp won. The referee announced. Then the commentator's voice sounded, "It's amazing. Xuanjian steel-armed cannon shrimp once again achieved a lore kill. Although it has the sniper characteristic, it is amazing to achieve this level." Xuanjian smiled proudly at the commentator's words. In order to give full play to the advantages of the steel-armed cannon shrimp, he took it to do a lot of special training, and specially strengthened its arm strength so that it can increase the power of each attack as much as possible. Recalling the giant claw crab that had lost its combat effectiveness, Zhang Yu sent out a second Pokémon. This time he sent out a Raichu, which seemed to be specially prepared to restrain water Pokémon. An electrical Raichu? Then see if you can withstand my attack. Steel-armed cannon shrimp, use Dragon Wave. According to the regulations, when the first attacking party issues an order, the second attacking party can act. Zhang Yu did not dare to bet whether his Raichu could withstand the Dragon Wave, and immediately ordered Raichu to use 100,000 volts to attack. The steel-armed cannon shrimp moved first, but it needed to charge up its power to launch a move, and its speed was slower than that of Raichu. In the end, both sides used their skills at the same time. Suddenly, the golden electric light and the blue energy dragon collided with each other, causing a huge explosion. Raichu's skill was weaker, so the large amount of shock waves generated by the explosion were all pressed to one side. Raichu's fat body was directly blown away by the air wave stirred up by the shock wave, and fell to the ground and lost its combat effectiveness, while the steel-armed cannon shrimp only received a little damage caused by the residual electricity transmitted from the water. Raichu lost his combat effectiveness, and the steel-armed cannon shrimp won. The referee announced again, and the audience became excited again, cheering loudly for the steel-armed cannon shrimp's one-shot kill. "I admit defeat." Zhang Yi took back Raichu and said weakly. Raichu was already the most threatening elf he could take out to the steel-armed cannon shrimp. If even it couldn't work, he really had no choice. Looking at the opponent who took the initiative to admit defeat, Xuanjian felt a little proud in his heart, and a smile unconsciously appeared at the corner of his mouth. In the stands, Duoga and the other two looked at each other helplessly, and all of them had a bad feeling. This is because he was suppressed too much, and then he was stimulated, so he turned evil. Shota said, stroking his chin. According to Shota, Xuanjian is so young and promising, but he doesn't have too much arrogance that is unique to geniuses. He must have suppressed his nature and now it has exploded. Shut up. Duogi immediately yelled at him. Yato nodded in agreement, that makes sense, and he has just been stimulated, so it's good to vent it out like this. Ah, Duoga said with a bitter face, but this will affect the game. Yato shrugged, what can we do? All we can do is try our best to help Xuanjian collect information about the next opponent, so that he can know himself and the enemy. That's the only way. Duoga sighed helplessly. Chapter 286 Professor Oak's explanation. Ah, that's right, Xiaobo, do you have any way to help Xuanjian? In the villa, Yato was talking to Xiaobo, while Duoga and Shota were listening nervously. I'm not good at this kind of question. On the screen, Xiaobo grabbed his bald head and said, I've never led young people. How about this, I'll ask a friend to help you. I suddenly have something to do here, so I'll hang up first. The screen went black. What friend? Duogi asked curiously. I'm not sure. Yato shook his head. After talking to Xiaobo, the three were still guessing who Xiaobo was talking about when the doorbell of the villa suddenly rang, and Duogi immediately rushed over to open the door. "Little girl, is Xuanjian here?" Duogi opened the door and heard a white-haired old man at the door ask, "Who are you?" Duogi looked at the old man in front of him, who was white-haired but still looked very energetic, and asked, "I'm Professor Oak." The man introduced, "You must be Duogi. This is the first time I've seen you in person. You're really a pretty girl." Duogi gently covered his mouth and bowed quickly. "Hello, Professor Oak. I'm very sorry I didn't recognize you just now." Although the two had never met, Xuanjian had talked to Professor Oak on the phone several times, and Duogi was always by his side. The two had seen each other on the video phone, but Dr. Oak was always dressed in a white coat on the phone, not in the casual clothes of a floral shirt like today, which was quite different, so Duogi didn't recognize him. It's okay. Dr. Oak waved his hands repeatedly. Duogi quickly made way and said, "Please come in. Xuanjian is preparing for the game in the room. I'll call him for you." No hurry. Dr. Oak said, "I don't have anything important to do, but Xiaobo asked me to come here to find Xuanjian. I live nearby, so I came here." As a doctor who is much more famous than Xiaobo, Dr. Oak naturally has a villa here. "It's great that you can come. We need your help. I just prepared afternoon tea. Please try my cooking," Duogi said in surprise. Dr. Oak is a great scientist and has a lot of experience in training young people. Maybe he can help Xuanjian solve his mentality problem. How can I be so embarrassed?" Dr. Oak said, scratching the back of his head. "It's my honor to invite you to taste the tea. Please don't be polite," Duogi said sincerely. "You are too polite. I would be disrespectful if you say so," Dr. Oak said, and then added, "But I have a companion. I wonder if I can ask her to come with me. Although it's a bit presumptuous, it's not good to leave her alone at home and run out to drink afternoon tea alone." "Of course, no problem." So, a few minutes later, the group sat in the garden of the villa and drank the afternoon tea carefully prepared by Duogi. "That's amazing." Xuanjian's mother Hanako clapped her hands and praised, "Not only is the tea brewed very skillfully, but the snacks are also very delicate and delicious." Miyako, who was sitting next to Hanako, also nodded in agreement. "Yes, that's amazing. It's rare to find such capable girls nowadays. Unlike my girl, she's rough." Miyako looked at Yuzi, who was fighting with Evie for the last snack, with a worried look on her face. "Don't worry too much, Yuzi is also very good. She is an excellent student in the Pokémon Academy, very good," Hanako comforted. "Hey, you don't know, Miyako immediately opened the chatterbox and began to tell Hanako about the various troubles of the child, while Hanako kept comforting her and occasionally revealed some black material about Xuanjian. The two housewives quickly became familiar with each other through children, the hottest topic between parents. Looking at the two middle-aged women who were chatting excitedly, Xuanjian took her daughter to leave first, and the others also moved their positions, leaving space for the two. Arriving at the rooftop of the villa, the four of them sat down and Dr. Oak said, "Tell me what happened?" Xiaobo is still so impatient. He hung up the phone before he could finish speaking. The three looked at each other, and finally Yato spoke to Dr. Oak to explain the whole story. Dr. Oak nodded while listening. After Yato finished speaking, he was silent for a while before saying, "It's a bit troublesome." The eyes of the three people lit up. "It's a bit troublesome, which means it's not completely unsolvable. This is good news." Duogi immediately said, "Please help Xuanjian. Xuanjian has made a lot of efforts for the quartz conference." Dr. Oak nodded and continued, "I will try my best, but this kind of problem is really difficult to deal with, and it's hard for outsiders to help. It depends more on Xuanjian himself. Let me tell you about Xuanjian's problem first." After a pause, Dr. Oak continued, "In fact, many young people have encountered this problem, and the more outstanding young people are, the more likely they are to encounter this problem, because their strength grows too fast." The three people asked in confusion. Seeing the three people's puzzled faces, Professor Oak explained, "Outstanding young people grow in strength faster and encounter fewer failures, so their mentality is more easily unbalanced, and this imbalance will seriously hinder their progress. To be honest, it is very rare that Xuanjian did not have this problem until he broke through the king level and was stimulated. This should be because Xuanjian is more rational and mature, so he has never encountered such a problem. However, the more rational the guys are, the more difficult it will be for them to deal with this kind of problem. Fortunately, Xuanjian is only at the king level. To be honest, if the problem occurred at the champion level, then I can't do anything. The three laughed and fully understood Professor Oak's cold joke. If they were at the champion level, it would be okay to encounter such a problem again. At this time, Professor Oak's communicator rang, interrupting him. Professor Oak turned on the phone, and Xiaomao's voice came from it. "Grandpa, where have you been with Xiaozi's mother again? You didn't even come to watch my game." Hearing his grandson's complaints, Professor Oak felt a little embarrassed and said with a laugh, "Xiaomao, your Aunt Hanako and I are visiting someone else's house. How was the game?" "Of course I won," Xiaomao said with a little pride, and then his voice became lowered. "But Grandpa, I have drawn a very tricky opponent tomorrow. I am not sure of winning at all. Come back soon and help me with advice." "Oh, really? It's not often that you find an opponent who you have no confidence in. Who is it? Could it be Xiaozi? How is that possible?" Xiaomao said somewhat indignantly. "What's there to worry about a guy like Xiaozi? The opponent I draw tomorrow is Brother Genma. After watching a childhood-ruining series on the internet, I always feel that the relationship between Professor Oak and Xiaozi's mother is a bit weird, and I feel that Professor Oak prefers Xiaozi to Xiaomao." Chapter 287 Battle against Xiaomao. The standard venue is the last 3 vs 3 venue that trainers need to pass before entering the 6 vs 6 finals of the Kanto Quartz tournament. At this time, 2 majestic wind speed dogs are fighting to their heart's content in the venue. It seems that Xuanjian's wind speed dog has the upper hand. "We should be relieved," said Shota. "How can we relax?" Duoga muttered. "We shouldn't have agreed to Professor Oak's proposal. Who knows if he is really kind." In fact, since knowing that Xuanjian's opponent is Xiaomao yesterday, Professor Oak proposed a plan, that is, to take a gamble and let Xiaomao fight Xuanjian with all his strength, and help him adjust to his state on the battlefield. Although the plan proposed by Professor Oak is very feasible in all aspects, Duoga, who is worried about it, always feels that Professor Oak has bad intentions and wants to take this opportunity to let Xiaomao win and enter the finals. Yato understood Duoga's worries and comforted him. "Don't worry. Professor Oak won't plot against Xuanjian for such a small matter. With Xiaomao's current strength, he can only enter the finals at most. Not to mention competing for the championship, it would be difficult to compete for the top 8. With Professor Oak's status, he would not plot against Xuanjian for such a small profit. And even if he really plotted, it would not be a loss to exchange such a small opportunity to enter the finals for recognizing a person." While the three were talking, the situation on the field became clearer and clearer. Xiaomao's wind speed dog was gradually suppressed by Xuanjian's wind speed dog due to the disadvantages in level and age. The physical strength consumption was getting greater and greater, and its speed like the wind was slowing down little by little. Both sides keenly noticed this, and Xuanjian immediately ordered, "Wind speed dog, use the super speed attack continuously, don't give the opponent a chance to breathe." Xuanjian's wind speed dog nodded, took a deep breath, and launched super speed attacks on Xiaomao's wind speed dog continuously. Xiaomao's wind speed dog had to cheer up again and again to fight back. As the saying goes, if you defend too long, you will lose. In addition, Arcanine is not a very good defensive Pokémon. Arcanine's breathing rhythm was soon further disrupted, and its physical strength was even more seriously consumed. Due to negligence, it was actually knocked away by the speed. "Give up, Xiaomao. You are not my opponent," Xuanjian persuaded. "Humph," Xiaomao turned his head. "I will not give up. Even if I can't beat you, I want to see how strong you are. To be honest, Arcanine, are you okay?" "Woof woof." Xiaomao's Arcanine responded with a bark. Although the previous attack knocked it to the ground, after the continuous attack, the power of the skill was insufficient, and it did not cause much damage to it. Instead, it got rid of Xuanjian's Arcanine's entanglement and got a chance to breathe. "Very good, then let's use the ultimate move. Arcanine, close combat," Xiaomao ordered. Arcanine nodded and rushed towards the opponent, while launching the fighting skill of close combat. This skill is very powerful, but it will reduce the user's defense. However, for a Pokémon like Arcanine whose defense is already low, this move is very practical. "It's just a trick, Arcanine, use hold," Xuanjian ordered. With the power of this move, It is difficult for Arcanine to resist, so just use hold to resist. It just so happens that this Arcanine learned the hold skill at Kojiro's house. The golden hold blocked the powerful attack, but Xiaomao did not feel the loss of the blocked attack at all. Instead, a smile of success appeared on the corner of his mouth. I won, Arcanine, use crushing. What? Xuanjian was shocked, but it was too late. Xiaomao's Arcanine had already rushed to his Arcanine with a close combat just now, and now the two sides were tightly together. I saw Xiaomao's Arcanine opened its mouth and launched an attack, followed by a crisp click sound, followed by the pain cry of his own Arcanine. Arcanine. Xuanjian was shocked, and then he saw his own Arcanine use Thunder Fang to counterattack, but was flexibly retreated by Xiaomao's Arcanine. Xuanjian hurriedly looked at his Arcanine, but saw that its left front leg was abnormally bent, obviously broken after being hit by the bite just now. Damn it! Xuanjian clenched his fists fiercely. The bite skill was not very powerful, but the part that was attacked was the left front leg, so his Arcanine almost lost the ability to move. Damn it, he was careless. For a moment, Xuanjian fell into regret. Seeing the attack succeed, Xiaomao was overjoyed. Wind Speed Dog, well done, come and bite it again. Hearing the praise, Xiaomao's Wind Speed Dog immediately became excited and attacked the opponent's right front leg again. Since Xuanjian was still immersed in his emotions, he was unable to issue an order. In panic, Xuanjian's Wind Speed Dog actually used the Flame Jet skill, but this was useless for the opponent with the same attributes and the fire-inducing characteristics, but instead increased the opponent's gain. After a click, Xuanjian's Wind Speed Dog was attacked again and his right front leg was also broken. The Wind Speed Dog let out a cry of pain, and Xuanjian woke up from his annoyance. Xuanjian looked at the Wind Speed Dog who could no longer stand up, and then he realized what mistake he had made. I admit defeat this round, come back, Wind Speed Dog. Xuanjian silently took back the Wind Speed Dog. With the Wind Speed Dog's injuries, it was completely unable to fight again. This round of surrender means that Windy Dog has completely withdrawn from this battle. Seeing that the indicator light representing Windy Dog has dimmed, Xuanjian threw out another Pokeball. Come out, Centipede King. Centipede King? It's just restrained by my Windy Dog. Windy Dog, use Jet Flame. Xiaomao ordered immediately. I won't let you succeed so easily, Centipede King roll attack. Xuanjian ordered, and then the huge body of Centipede King immediately shrank into roller shape and rushed towards Windy Dog. Under its rolling, the flame sprayed by Windy Dog could not stop the action of Centipede King at all. Seeing this, Xiaomao also made a ruthless move and ordered again, Windy Dog, use Burn to Death. Suddenly, the flame sprayed from the mouth of Windy Dog soared in power, and for a time it completely enveloped the entire body of Centipede King, but Centipede King still gritted his teeth and insisted on rolling. Finally, the Centipede King wrapped in the blazing flames hit the Windy Dog who was fighting to the death, causing a huge explosion. Who won? In the audience, Duog asked Yedo immediately without waiting for the smoke to clear. It must be the Centipede King's tragic victory. After all, the Windy Dog's physical strength is running low. Yedo shook his head and said, in fact, the Centipede King should not have attacked the Windy Dog head-on. With its speed and acceleration characteristics, as long as it drags on, it will definitely be able to wear down the Windy Dog. Why bother to exchange injuries so reluctantly? And just now, with Xuanjian's Windy Dog's level and experience advantage, if Xuanjian had the previous level, how could he lose to Xiaomao? Let alone the discussion on the stage, the explosion caused by the collision between the two sides in the venue below subsided, and everyone regained their sight. As Yedo expected, the Centipede King won, but its appearance was also quite miserable. The originally beautiful purple shell on its body was burned black, and it was obviously seriously injured. Although it was Xiaomao's Windy Dog that lost its combat effectiveness, people with combat experience could easily see that Xiaomao actually had an absolute advantage. After all, the Centipede King's situation was very bad. As long as it suffered some more damage, it would completely lose its combat effectiveness. But seeing such a favorable situation, Xiaomao did not rush to summon the next elf, but stared at Xuanjian closely, wondering what he was thinking. Sorry, it's late. Chapter 288 Failure. You're not in the right state, Xiaomao said. Although Professor Oak did not tell him about Xuanjian's abnormality, Xiaomao quickly discovered that Xuanjian was not on the right state with his keen intuition. Xuanjian nodded and said, as expected of Xiaomao, you discovered it so quickly. But it's not that I'm not on the right state, but I have experienced some things recently, which made my fighting style change. Compared with the timid me before, I now prefer a simple and direct fighting style. Compared with before, the new style is obviously more powerful. The reason I lost you just now was because my elves have not adapted to the new fighting style, plus I was a little careless. Next time, I have to be serious. Xiaomao shook his head and said, that's not the case. In my impression, you are the kind of person who calculates very carefully, always leaves room for maneuvers, and won't let yourself be too embarrassed. The same is true for your fighting style. Although your explosive power may not be very strong, you can always win in the end with careful calculations and wisdom. But you are completely different today, and your fighting style has become violent and reckless. Maybe in the eyes of unfamiliar people, your strength has not only not decreased, but has improved. But in fact, that's only because you have used up the power that you usually use to guard against your opponent's trump cards. Your strength has not been essentially improved. On the contrary, it will be more likely to be overturned by your opponent's strange moves. The fact that your windy dog lost the game just now is proof of this. If it were you in the past, you would definitely leave room to guard against my killer moves. That's just carelessness. Xuanjian waved his hand impatiently, interrupting Xiaomao's preaching. Take out your new Pokémon. I want to let you see my new power. Xiaomao shook his head and said no more. He threw out a new Pokéball. Go, Nidoking. Nidoking, Centipede King, move at high speed. Xuanjian did not launch an attack rashly, but let Centipede King move and increase its speed. With its own outstanding speed and acceleration characteristics, the Centipede King, which moved at high speed, almost turned into Purple Phantom. So fast! Xiaomao exclaimed. At this speed, most flying elves probably couldn't catch up. However, there was a way to catch up with it. Xiaomao ordered Nidoking, Nidoking, use Rock Blockade. Roar! Nidoking roared and stomped heavily on the ground. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Then thick rock pillars rose from the ground without any rules, forming obstacles, blocking the way of Centipede King. For high-speed moving elves, Rock Blockade is a very practical skill. The rock pillars that suddenly rise without any rules will force the high-speed moving elves to slow down, otherwise they are likely to collide with them. For high-speed moving elves, this collision is very fatal. Not bad, you can use this skill to such great power, your level is very good. Xuanjian praised Xiaomao. Although the elves can easily learn this skill through the skill machine, at the beginning, most elves can only raise a few small stones in the rock field with a small range. For Xiaomao, who can raise a rock column that almost covers the entire standard field, he must go through some hard training. However, this level is still not enough to stump the Centipede King and Xuanjian. Centipede King, roll. Upon hearing the order, the moving Centipede King immediately curled up his body, turned into a ball, and rushed forward. After turning into a ball, even if the Centipede King hits a rock column, he can use his spherical body to avoid a head-on collision, and even use the force to accelerate. For a while, a purple ball rolled back and forth between the stone pillars. Can it be like this? Xiaomao was also dumbfounded. He didn't know that the Centipede King had been living in the forest before he met Xuanjian in his childhood, and he was very good at avoiding obstacles during high-speed movement. Very good, Centipede King, attack in one go. After continuous acceleration and collision, the power of Centipede King's rolling has been superimposed to a terrifying level. After Xuanjian's order, Centipede King immediately rolled over Nidoking. Xiaomao also knew that this attack could not be avoided, and he made up his mind and ordered, Nidoking, use the ultimate impact. Boom! The two purple figures collided with each other. What was amazing was that the power of Centipede King's rolling was too strong. Not only did it overwhelm the ultimate move of the general system, but it also pushed Nidoking to break several stone pillars in succession, and finally slammed into the protective belt. Although Nidoking is immune to rock-type skills, he still lost his combat effectiveness under this powerful move. How about it? The power of rolling is not bad. Xuanjian said to Xiaomao. It's quite powerful, Xiaomao nodded and said, but it's a pity that your tactical layout is going to fail. What? Xuanjian hurriedly looked down the field, only to find that the Centipede King was also motionless, and it was obvious that he had also lost his combat effectiveness. How could this happen? In the stands, Duoga was puzzled as to why the Centipede King had also lost his combat effectiveness. During training, the Centipede King had used a roll that was far more powerful than this, but in the end, he was fine. After a little thought, Yadua gave the answer. Just now, the fire of Windy Dog severely damaged the shell of Centipede King. The shell was damaged and its resistance to collision was seriously weakened. The Centipede King could not withstand the counterattack caused by his own skills and finally lost his combat effectiveness. On the field, Xuanjian silently took back the Centipede King who had lost his combat effectiveness. His face was extremely ugly. Seeing this, Xiaomao said, "It seems that I guessed right. The last Pokémon you prepared must be a Pokémon with a speed defect. Centipede King accidentally lost its combat effectiveness and cannot use the baton to transfer speed. It seems that my hope of winning has been reduced a little." Xuanjian did not speak, but said to the last Pokéball, "Please, Lamp Ghost." The dark purple Lamp Ghost appeared on the field. According to the plan, it obtained a speed shortcoming passed by the Centipede King after the loss to make up for it. With a floating ability and extremely strong special attack, it will become a high-speed mobile turret. Unfortunately, everything is ruined now. Seeing Xuanjian summon the Lantern Ghost, Xiaomao's face lit up, and he was about to summon a new elf. Suddenly, a dazzling white light came out of the Lantern Ghost. Evolved. Xuanjian looked at the Lantern Ghost bathed in the white light and began to reshape its body with surprise, and praised, "Good job, Lantern Ghost." After absorbing the power of the giant Jengar, the Lantern Ghost's level was already very high. Xuanjian tried to use the Dark Stone to evolve it, but unfortunately it had no effect. Later, after analysis, it was found that the power of the giant Jengar already carried a more refined dark energy than the Dark Stone. The Lantern Ghost no longer needed the Dark Stone to evolve. The reason why it had not evolved was because the power had not been absorbed. In this regard, Xuanjian could only wait patiently, but he did not expect that the Lantern Ghost would evolve at this moment. At this moment, Xuanjian just wanted to shout, "God really helped me." The white light gradually disappeared, and a mysterious and beautiful Lantern Ghost appeared in the air. Xiaomao looked at the light ghost, smiled and shook his head, and threw the Pokéball in his hand. "Please, my friend. I was busy with work this week, so I'm sorry for the delay in updating. I will make up for it." Chapter 289, Blazing Inferno. Xuanjian, it's time for dinner. Duoga pushed open the door of Xuanjian's room and called to Xuanjian, who was lying on the bed. "Well, I'll be there soon." Xuanjian sat up from the bed, put on his slippers, and walked towards the restaurant downstairs. "Xuanjian, are you okay?" Duoga looked at Xuanjian with some worry, trying to find something wrong. "I'm fine." Xuanjian smiled at Duoga. "Don't worry too much, I'm fine, really. It's just that I lost to Xiaomao. How can people always win? Besides, I haven't completely lost the chance to enter the finals. Don't I still have a resurrection match?" That's right, in the previous battle, Xuanjian finally lost to Xiaomao. Although his own Lantern Ghost performed exceptionally well on the spot and evolved into Crystal Lantern Spirit, Xiaomao's last Pokemon was his main Blastoise, which suppressed Crystal Lantern Spirit in terms of level, attributes and race value. After a hard battle, Crystal Lantern Spirit was defeated without suspense, and Xuanjian also lost the game. The so-called mouth cannon can only work under the guarantee of strength. After losing the game, Xuanjian calmed down and thought about Xiaomao's words, and found that he was indeed wrong. Xuanjian has been staying in the room these days. In addition to preparing for the resurrection match, he is also preparing to reflect and adjust himself. Well, Duoga nodded. She also saw that although he lost the game, Xuanjian was not hit too hard, but recovered his original state. According to Dr. Oak, Xuanjian has regained consciousness and can adjust himself later. However, although Duoga was very happy that Xuanjian returned to normal, he still felt very resentful when he thought that the price Xuanjian paid for this was losing to Xiaomao. And as far as Duoga knew, the competition in the resurrection match was very fierce. Although he was very confident in Xuanjian, Duoga couldn't help but worry, fearing that something unexpected would happen again. As if hearing Duoga's voice, Xuanjian said, "Don't worry, I feel that I have improved after this time, and the difficulties of the resurrection match can't stop me." "Well." Duoga nodded. The revival match was held in a stadium not far from the finals venue, but compared to the crowded finals venue, it seemed extremely deserted. Apart from the relatives and friends of the contestants, there were almost no spectators here. Even the venue for the competition was just a slightly repaired flatland. The official explanation for this was that the competitions here were too frequent and intense, and the venue was too severely damaged, so there was no time to take good care of it. Not only were the audience and the venue very different from other competitions, but the rules of the revival match were also very different from normal competitions. According to the regulations, in order to determine the strongest trainer as much as possible, the revival match adopts a 1 versus 1 round-robin system, and the trainer can only choose one Pokémon from beginning to end. In the end, the trainer who won the most games was qualified to enter the finals. Do you really have to use the Crystal Lamp Spirit? The revival match is so difficult, I think it's safer to bring out some trump cards. Duoga suggested. No, Xuanjian shook his head. I've decided to go with Crystal Lamp Spirit. This guy lost the game right after he evolved, and he was hit hard. I want to use this game to help him regain his confidence. But if it happens again, Xuanjian waved his hand to stop Duoga from talking, and said, don't worry. I won't lose again. After the last failure, my strength has improved again. Hearing this, Duoga had to swallow his words back and watched Xuanjian walk towards the arena. Entering the arena, Xuanjian began to look at the opponents present. These were all trainers who had lost in the official competition before. Losing the game does not mean that they are weak. After all, there are too many unexpected events in the game, and any one of them may cause the trainer to lose to an opponent weaker than himself. For example, Xuanjian saw an acquaintance, Duao, who lost to Xiaozi in the first round. To be fair, although this arrogant trainer looks more like a coordinator or a performer than a trainer, this guy is indeed quite strong, but he just happened to be unlucky to meet Xiaozi's explosive species, which is why he can appear here. At this point, we have to say something special about the rules of the revival match. There are 10 places in the revival match. These places are not given to the players based on the number of wins in the competition, but based on the players' past battle results and the league's evaluation of the trainer's strength. Therefore, it is difficult for most newcomers to qualify for the revival match. With the entry of a lazy referee, the revival match officially began, but who will go first became a problem. Although the person with the most wins will enter the finals in the end, the earlier you go, the more your information will be exposed, and the easier it will be to be targeted when fighting against your opponent. The referee looked around at everyone and was about to decide to draw lots according to convention when Xuanjian stood up. I'll go first. Since you have decided to help Crystal Lamp Spirit regain confidence, then win beautifully all the way. The referee nodded, then turned to the rest of the people, wanting them to draw Xuanjian's opponent. No need. Xuanjian stopped the referee's action again, and in the referee's puzzled eyes, he said, no need, let them come together. I'm in a hurry. Buzz, the contestants exploded after hearing Xuanjian's words. The players who entered the resurrection match all had some strength. In addition, the strict rules of the resurrection match meant that even the most arrogant guys would try their best to keep a low profile. No one expected Xuanjian to be so rampant. However, for Xuanjian, this was not arrogance, but confidence in his own strength. In his opinion, these guys present had lost their ambitions due to failure, and had become timid and not worth worrying about. What was the difference between facing a group and facing one person? Don't be too arrogant. Duowu yelled at Xuanjian, and others echoed him. Xuanjian glanced at Duowu, then scanned everyone, smiled coldly, and said, if that's the case, then you come and teach me a lesson. What's the point of being so timid? Everyone looked at each other, and some of the more scheming ones even had a trick up their sleeves. According to their understanding, Xuanjian can be said to be the strongest among the crowd, and it is not a bad choice to unite to eliminate him first, but the rules. At this time, the referee on the side perked up. Such scenes are rare. He opened his mouth to add fuel to the fire of the crowd. There is no rule in this regard, but as a referee I have the right to modify the rules. How about this? If Xuanjian beats all of you, then he will immediately qualify for resurrection. If he loses, then he will immediately lose the qualification for resurrection. Okay. No problem. Xuanjian nodded. Everyone looked at each other, and finally gritted their teeth. Let's do it. Okay, the referee nodded, then the game begins. Xuanjian nodded and opened the Pokeball. Come out, Crystal Lamp Fire Spirit. At the same time, the names of various elves rang out from the opposite side, and various different elves were summoned. There is no doubt that Xuanjian should attack first. Crystal Lamp Spirit, show them our new trick, Fiery Purgatory. With Xuanjian's order, the crystal lamp spirit floating in the air suddenly started to spin at high speed. As it spun, clusters of blue sparks flew out from the 4 small lampshades and fell on the many elves below. Then a blazing flame gushed out from the top of the large lampshade in the center. After the flames fell, they did not fall directly on the elves, but wandered around, forming a space similar to the purgatory skill, trapping all the elves in it. However, unlike the ordinary purgatory skill, this purgatory was huge in scale, and its flames were not only cyclical. That is to say, the flames spewed out from the main lampshade of the crystal lamp spirit, formed purgatory, and then gathered together and returned to the 4 secondary lampshades of the lamp ghost, and circulated continuously. Okay. Xuanjian snapped his fingers. The arrangement is complete. What a joke. Everyone said, but no one was willing to take the lead in breaking the flame cage. The reason is the same. If you attack first, you will reveal your Pokémon's information. The rules here do not allow Pokémon to be exchanged, which is very disadvantageous for subsequent games. In addition, everyone is worried that the first bird to come out will be shot, and at the same time, they have a small thought that others will work hard and they will reap the fruits of their labor. In the end, no one is willing to take action. It takes a lot of physical strength to maintain this skill. Let's wait slowly, and we will definitely be able to wear it down, said one of the trainers who summoned a fire Pokémon with the fire starting property. Although the others understood his small thoughts, they all felt that it made sense. Time passed little by little, and to everyone's disappointment, the flames were always stable, and the light ghost never showed any signs of being dragged down. Instead, it seemed to be getting more and more energetic. Finally, a trainer who summoned a grass-type vine monster couldn't help it and took the lead in launching an attack. Vine used nature's grace. The vine monster, which was roasted by the fire and was a little dying, immediately used skills to attack the flame cage, but it had no effect at all. Now all the trainers were a little panicked and ordered their Pokémon to attack, but to their disappointment, all attacks had no effect. Even the water cannon of the water Pokémon could not penetrate the flames. Give up. Xuanjian's voice sounded indifferently. If you had fought hard from the beginning, I might not have been able to beat all of you. Unfortunately, you are all afraid that others would take advantage of you, so you all hesitated, giving me enough time to build this strong enough flaming purgatory. This purgatory is almost zero consumption for my crystal lamp fire spirit, and it is enough to maintain it until all the elves are exhausted. As he said, Xuanjian glanced at the somewhat unconvinced fire spirit training, and said, the same is true for the elves with fire-attracting characteristics. As other elves gradually lose their combat effectiveness, the purgatory will gradually tighten, and then no air will enter. The elves with fire-attracting characteristics will also lose their combat effectiveness due to lack of oxygen. At this time, everyone's face changed, and they tried harder to order their elves to attack the surrounding flame walls, but unfortunately they did not succeed. In the resistance of the crowd, starting with the grass elves, followed by the steel, insect, rock, ground, etc., and finally the water and fire, all the elves were eventually burned and lost their combat effectiveness. After defeating all opponents, Xuanjian qualified for the semifinals as he wished. After meeting up with his companions, Shota asked in amazement, Xuanjian, how did you develop this trick? It's so powerful that it can kill so many people at once. Duogi on the side had the same expression, only Yato looked thoughtful. Xuanjian smiled and shook his head, saying, haha, you were also fooled. This trick is just a bluff, it's not very practical because it's too difficult to complete. Huh? The blue flame released by the crystal lamp fire spirit at the beginning is actually the key to the whole trick. Those sparks are the original flames of the crystal lamp fire spirit that have been disguised. Once attached to it, the crystal lamp fire spirit will absorb energy, which is the legendary soul being sucked away. This original flame is actually very fragile and easy to be exposed. The crystal lamp fire spirit basically does not use it to attack. Today, it is used under the cover of the high temperature flame that looks more threatening. Several people are very knowledgeable about elves. After Xuanjian's guidance, they immediately understood. I see. Yato clapped his hands and was the first to figure it out. Isn't this the same as the scene of the crystal lamp fire spirit hunting? Constructing a scary scene to attract attention, secretly absorbing the opponent's energy. That's right, Xuanjian continued. In fact, The fire purgatory constructed at the beginning is strong on the outside but weak on the inside, and it can be easily destroyed. After all, it is already very difficult to maintain such a large fire cage, and there is almost no spare energy for strengthening. It's a pity that they are looking for death and are unwilling to contribute, allowing the crystal lamp fire spirit enough time to continuously strengthen the purgatory, and finally it can't be broken at all. But didn't you say that this trick is almost zero consumption? Shoto raised his doubts. Obviously he hasn't figured it out yet. Haven't you figured it out yet? The multi-track socket explained. Of course it consumes its own strength at the beginning, but then the crystal lamp fire spirit can draw strength from the opponent's body to maintain and strengthen the fiery inferno. If I'm not mistaken, the flames that return to the crystal lamp fire spirit's body are the extracted energy. These energies are slightly transformed inside the crystal lamp fire spirit's body, and then used to maintain and strengthen the fiery purgatory that traps them. That's why Xuanjian said that maintaining the fiery purgatory consumes zero energy. In fact, there's even a surplus. Is that right, Xuanjian? That's right. Xuanjian nodded affirmatively. I see. Shota suddenly realized, so it's actually using those guys' own strength to hit themselves. Those guys would be so pissed if they knew that. Xuanjian smiled, and said with some regret, what a pity. This trick is too difficult to deploy successfully. Otherwise, the more enemies trapped by this trick, the stronger the fiery hell formed in the end. It can be regarded as a powerful group battle skill. Yet, and due to the limitation that the core's energy absorption depends on the original flame, there is little room for optimization of this trick. Yato also sighed, but if used for ambush in special occasions, it would be good. This can be regarded as a two-palm supplement, right? Chapter 296 vs 6 First Battle. At the Quartz Conference Finals venue, Xuanjian, who had passed the resurrection match, welcomed his first full staff duel. His opponent was Luna, a female trainer from Rainbow City, who had debuted for 3 years. A very strong opponent. Yato exclaimed. Generally speaking, trainers who have debuted for 2 to 5 years are the most difficult to deal with. They are not as lacking in accumulation as newcomers, and they retain the enthusiasm and vigor of newcomers. Some veterans often lose to them. Of course, this is also a hurdle. If you can't jump over it, then the status of most people will begin to decline after 5 years. Only a few can still maintain it. As for those who go further, it is even more rare. This is why many adults are not as good as newcomers in using Pokémon. The opponent seems to have several powerful fire Pokémon, so the decision is you. Infernape. Although it was a grass field, Luna did not send out a grass Pokémon. Obviously, she knew the Pokémon held by Xuanjian through some channels, so she would rather give up the bonus of the field and send out Infernape. Inferno? It's rare for a girl to use this. It's rare for such a hot-tempered guy to be tamed by a girl, so go, Electabuzz. The Pokéball was thrown high, and in a dazzling light, an Electabuzz appeared on the field. Some careful spectators immediately discovered its unusualness. Compared with ordinary Electabuzz, this Electabuzz was more symmetrical and solid, and looked more fit. Although they noticed the difference, this information was useless. Luna immediately ordered Inferno to attack. Inferno, use close combat. In terms of attributes, she was not dominant, and Inferno's defense was weak. Luna simply gave up the idea of defense and planned to attack instead of defend. The tactics are good, but the elves are too weak. In the stands, Yato commented. Although Inferno looks scary, it is actually strong on the outside but weak on the inside. It is not a powerful elf. In addition, the strength gap between the two sides means that even if the tactics are fine, it is difficult for a good cook to cook without rice. Xuanjian did not give any orders to Infernape's attack. For an opponent of this level, Electric Beast could easily deal with it. Electric Beast took a fighting stance and greeted the Infernape rushing over. With its strong arms, it steadily blocked the monkey monster's fist and used the force to unload it, leading the monkey monster to pounce. The monkey monster's punch missed and was led by Electric Beast. His body suddenly lost balance and fell to the ground. Oh my god, am I seeing things? Or did I remember the attributes of the two elves wrong? Seeing this scene, the audience on the field immediately made a noise. A fighting elf was actually knocked down by a non-fighting elf with fighting methods. It was really unbelievable. Infernape, stand up. Seeing that the attack failed, Luna was very anxious and called out loudly. Hearing Luna's call, Infernape staggered from the ground. It was obvious that the fall just now was not light. It caused it to suffer a lot of damage. The bond is strong, Xuanjian praised. When Luna called out, Infernape stood up with all his strength, which showed that they were very close. But the bond alone is not enough. Electabuzz, deal with it. Hearing Xuanjian's order, Electabuzz immediately rushed towards Infernape, and smashed the electric fist at Infernape fiercely. Infernape roared, crossed his arms to resist Electabuzz's fist, but was immediately hit by the electric current attached to the fist, and his body was paralyzed for a while. Electabuzz certainly would not miss this opportunity, and his right fist attacked again, carrying the dazzling electric light and hitting Infernape's stomach heavily, knocking it to the ground again. This time, Infernape completely lost its fighting power. Beautiful. A good start. Yato exclaimed, and it looks like the electric beast hasn't used its full strength yet, it's doing it with ease. Luna took back Infernape and replaced it with a new Pokémon, Go, Vine Monster. Because the opponent was clearly an electrical type, she also made full use of the venue's blessing. Vine Monster? Electric Beast, split the tiles. Electric Beast rushed to the side of the Vine Monster like lightning, and with its fingers like knives, it chopped the Vine Monster fiercely. Unfortunately, the Vine Monster, which is almost entirely composed of vines, has too strong defense against physical attacks. Although the attack of the Electric Beast is very strong, it only cuts off some vines on the surface of its body. So strong. Looking at the vine whips on the surface of the Vine Monster, Luna took a breath of cold air. The vines on the surface of the Vine Monster have very strong physical defense, but so many of them were cut off by the Electric Beast in one blow. No wonder it easily defeated her Infernape. Realizing the danger, Luna did not dare to be careless and immediately ordered, Vine Monster, Vine Whip Dance. As soon as the voice fell, the vine whips around the Vine Monster immediately exploded and rushed towards the Electric Monster. The Electric Monster immediately used the tile-splitting counterattack, but unfortunately the soft vine whips were difficult to cut off. Under the siege of so many vine whips, the Electric Monster was soon ramped by dense vine whips. Good secret technique. Xuanjian looked at the Electric Monster tied up in a ball and praised. Although he had expected that there would be powerful secret techniques in the finals, he did not expect to encounter them so early. Luna did not answer. Xuanjian put too much pressure on her. All her energy was focused on the battle. Seeing the attack was successful, Luna immediately took advantage of the victory and pursued, "Well done, Vine Monster, keep the state and use the wrestling. We've been waiting for now, Electric Shock Monster, break free from the vines." To use the wrestling attack, the vine whip must be tightened. At this time, the elasticity of the vine whip will drop significantly. Xuanjian seized this opportunity to issue an order, and the Electric Shock Monster immediately burst out with a violent electric current. The fierce current stimulated the body of the Electric Shock Monster, allowing its strength to be maximized. Under this brute force, the vine whip that entangled the Electric Shock Monster was broken. However, although it broke free from the shackles of the vines, the Vine Monster's wrestling skills were still used successfully, and the Electric Shock Monster was hit hard on the ground. Fortunately, this is a grass field, the ground is soft, and the damage caused is not great. Vine Monster, come again. Seeing that the Electric Monster broke through the vines, Luna was not discouraged. The vines of the Vine Monster grow very quickly, and this attack does not consume much energy. It can be reused to wear down the Electric Monster. Seeing the overwhelming vines coming, Xuanjian did not dare to neglect it and immediately ordered, "Electric Monster, use Vote to replace." The Electric Monster was too severely restrained by the Vine Monster, and a new elf must be replaced. My feet hurt, so I stayed in bed and rested last week. I did an update. I will come back to write for everyone as soon as I feel better this week. Considering how hard I work, should I give more medical expenses? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 16-8. A flash of light passed, and a mighty giant mantis appeared on the field. Looking at the dense vines around it, the giant mantis snorted disdainfully and then used a cross scissors. A few blades flashed, and the vines that were originally aggressive were immediately cut off and fell to the ground helplessly. The Vine Monster was a little overwhelmed by losing so many vines in one breath, and immediately retracted all the vines. Giant Mantis. Damn, it's another elf that has never appeared. It seems that the opponent has hidden a lot of strength. Luna said hatefully, "Come back, vine monster." Just like the vine monster restrained the electric shock monster, the giant mantis's suppression of the vine monster was too great, and it had to change opponents. Giant mantis uses chase. Luna's face darkened. She didn't expect the opponent to have this trick. She was actually ambushed. Gritting her teeth, Luna summoned the elves and asked, "Go ahead, fire spirit. Now I have the upper hand again, do you want to exchange?" Xuanjian shook his head. "No, what's the point of exchanging all the time, and, against a guy like fire spirit, it doesn't matter even if the attributes are seriously restrained. HMPH, then let you see how powerful the fire spirit is. Fire spirit, use jet flame." Luna gave an order, and the fire spirit immediately sprayed a line of fire at the giant claw mantis. The giant claw mantis did not dare to neglect it and immediately used lightning flash to dodge to the side. Although defending can prevent a jet of fire, Xuanjian did not intend to use it so early. "Keep chasing." Seeing the giant claw mantis dodge the attack, Luna continued to order, and the fire spirit immediately twisted its neck, controlled the line of fire to chase the giant claw mantis, and the whole grass field was ignited by the hot flames during the chase between the two sides. For a while, the giant claw mantis had nowhere to land and could only rely on its remaining flying ability to float in the air. "You can't escape. Use the flame vortex." Looking at the clumsy flying mantis, the fire spirit took a deep breath and used the flame vortex on the mantis. With the help of the surrounding flames, the fire spirit exerted a strength far beyond its normal state. The huge flame vortex almost covered half of the field. Even the scyther with stronger flying ability would find it difficult to escape in this situation, not to mention the mantis that had almost completely lost its flying ability. The blazing flames closed and successfully trapped the mantis. "It worked, well done, fire spirit." Luna looked at the successfully trapped enemy and praised happily. With a fourfold restraint of the fire system on the mantis, even if nothing was done next, it could still cause great damage. Again, the tactics are very good, but unfortunately your strength is not enough to support such tactics. Looking at the excited Luna, Xuanjian shook his head and said to the giant mantis trapped in the flames, "Giant mantis, end this battle." With Xuanjian's order, the giant mantis in the flames roared, and then the flame vortex was split from it. "What?" Luna looked at the giant mantis that reappeared from the flames in surprise, and hurriedly ordered, "Fire spirit, spray flames." Forcefully raising his breath, the fire spirit sprayed a stream of flames at the giant mantis, but the giant mantis, who had been prepared, first used a substitute to offset the damage, and then launched a flash of lightning, pounced on the fire spirit, and knocked the fire spirit away before it could react. Beautiful, Yanfan chase. Before the knocked away fire spirit landed, the giant mantis immediately used Yanfan and hit the fire spirit again. With a magical physical defense of the fire spirit, it completely lost its combat effectiveness under the two attacks of the giant mantis. It is difficult to win a battle with reverse attributes, let alone a reverse attribute that is 4 times restrained. However, no one in the audience cheered for Xuanjian's victory at this moment. Instead, they stared at the giant mantis in the field and exclaimed, "How handsome, a silver giant mantis." It turned out that in the previous battle, the paint on the surface of the giant mantis was ineffective under the scorching flames, revealing its original color. Oh no, the giant mantis is exposed. Damn, how could the paint be ineffective? In the stands, Duoga saw the giant mantis reveal its original color and was immediately anxious. "Don't be excited, calm down. Calm down." Shota pressed Duoga's shoulder and said, "This is the sequelae of the new paint." "New paint?" Duoga asked in confusion. "Well," Shota nodded, "this is a tool developed specifically for steel-type Pokémon. If applied to the body surface, it can improve the corrosion resistance of steel-type Pokémon. When encountering flames, it can also reduce the damage caused by flames through its own volatilization. The only flaw is that it will fade after volatilization." Xuanjian knows all this. He said that it's time for Mantis to show its true form. In the field, looking at the silver mantis standing on the black ground burned by fire, Luna couldn't help but feel a little frustrated. After all, she lost to the opponent under the fourfold restraint, which shows that the gap in strength between the two sides is too big. Silently taking back the fire Pokémon that had lost its combat effectiveness, Luna threw a new Pokéball. Go, Pidgeot. Pidgeot, Mantis, use Sword Dance. When dealing with Flying-type Pokémon, you must hit them with one shot, otherwise you will be hurt by the snake instead of killing it. Therefore, Xuanjian chose to increase the attack first. Pidgeot, Fierce Storm. For an opponent like the giant claw mantis, Luna did not dare to launch a close-range attack immediately, but let Pidgeot use Fierce Storm to attack. With its strong and powerful wings, Pidgeot easily set off a huge storm and attacked the giant claw mantis. Fly with the wind. Xuanjian ordered loudly. The general giant claw mantis might be afraid of the Fierce Storm skill, but his giant claw mantis was not afraid. With its superb control of power and the characteristics of light metal, the giant claw mantis took advantage of the fierce storm created by Pidgeot and jumped high. In Pidgeot's surprised eyes, it flew right in front of Pidgeot. Okay, now, light energy drives in. The fragmented light points gathered on the silver steel armor, and finally gathered into a strong beam of light, which sprayed out from the back, generating a huge propulsion force. With this propulsion force, the giant claw mantis came to Pidgeot in an instant like a silver lightning, and before Pidgeot could react, it turned over and landed on Pidgeot's back. Not good, Luna cried secretly, but it was too late. Mantis had already raised his fist and threw a bullet punch like lightning. Screech. Pidgeot cried out in pain, and was immediately drowned by the rain of fists. In order to reduce weight, most flying Pokémon have weak defenses. Under the fierce attack of Mantis, Pidgeot quickly lost his combat effectiveness and fell from the sky powerlessly. Pidgeot lost his combat effectiveness, Mantis won. Contestant Luna's 3 Pokémon lost their combat effectiveness. Exchange venues. I found that writing about the Quartz Conference was really not a wise choice. Thinking about so many games is overwhelming. Chapter 292 16-8. According to the rules of the competition, if 3 elves on one side lose their combat effectiveness, the venue will be changed. Under the control of the machine, the grass field that was burned to white was quickly converted into a randomly selected field, the rock field. Although she knew that her chances of winning were slim, Luna did not give up. Go, Super Armor Rhino. Super Armor Rhino, the final evolution of the Iron Rhino, is a dual attribute elf of the ground and rock types. It has physical attack and physical defense that surpass the giant claw mantis. In addition to the bonus brought by this field, although the level is slightly lower and the attribute beast is restrained, it can compete with a giant claw mantis. Without much nonsense, Xuanjian ordered the giant claw mantis to attack. I saw a flash of silver light, and the giant claw mantis had already used the lightning flash and hit the super armored mad rhino heavily. Then the giant claw mantis used the bullet fist and hit the super armored mad rhino hard. For a time, the sound of metal hitting rock was endless. After completing a series of attacks, the giant mantis withdrew and the super armored mad rhinoceros reappeared in everyone's sight. Surprisingly, the series of fierce attacks by the giant mantis only knocked off some rocks on its body surface and did not cause much damage to it. What a terrible defense! Xuanjian said with a headache. The super armored mad rhinoceros is a Pokémon that is said to be able to withstand even volcanic eruptions. The defense on its body surface is too strong. Even with the attack power of the giant mantis, it is difficult to cause effective damage. The thick rock layer makes it difficult for the strength to penetrate, which immediately makes the giant mantis's special skills useless. Moreover, according to Xuanjian's observation, this super armored mad rhinoceros seems to have the characteristics of hard rock, which completely eliminates the restraint of the steel type on it. What a difficult guy. Should we exchange Pokémon? Xuanjian thought. While Xuanjian was hesitating, Luna, who saw that the super armored rhino had survived the attack of the giant claw mantis, breathed a sigh of relief and ordered the super armored rhino to launch a counterattack. The super armored rhino raised his arm and ejected pieces of rocks from the hole in his palm, shooting at Scyther. This is a powerful skill of the super armored rhino, Rock Blast. In the wild environment, it will even use the small rock as a bullet. Block it, and then use Silver Wind to attack. Xuanjian ordered. Although the special attack of the giant claw mantis is very low, the damage caused by the special attack skill is not much weaker than the physical attack skill when facing a thick-skinned guy like the super armored rhino. Can't delay it. Seeing the giant claw mantis knocking away the rocks and using Silver Wind to counterattack, Luna immediately realized this. The Silver Wind has a very strong boost effect, and it will be disadvantageous to delay it. With this thought, Luna immediately ordered, Super Armored Rhino, Rock Cannon. Following Luna's order, Super Armored Rhino stopped the rock blast, put his arms together, and then a large number of rock shells shot out from his arms and hit the giant claw mantis. This is the ultimate move of the rock system, the Rock Cannon. Giant claw mantis, hold on. Xuanjian ordered hurriedly. The power of this attack was too great and it was difficult to dodge. He could only hold on to resist it. Boom. The rock shells hit the golden light shield formed by holding on. The powerful force even smashed the entire light shield into the soil. Fortunately, the giant claw mantis finally held on. Seeing that the super armored rhino fell into a state of stiffness, Xuanjian immediately ordered, Giant Claw Mantis, Ultimate Impact. The silver claws carried unparalleled power and hit the super armored rhino heavily. Facing this ultimate move of the general system, even the super armored rhino could not withstand it and fell to the ground on its back. But even so, it still did not lose its combat effectiveness, and its terrifying defense can be seen. Although it was knocked to the ground, the super armored rhino also recovered its ability to move. Luna immediately ordered, Super Armored Rhino, use Horn Drill. Not good. Xuanjian's face changed. Horn Drill has a very low hit rate, but once it hits, it will make the opponent lose its combat effectiveness directly. Unfortunately, the giant claw mantis is currently in a state of stiffness and can hardly dodge. Move quickly, giant claw mantis. Xuanjian shouted loudly. The giant claw mantis also tried hard to control its stiff muscles and wanted to dodge before being hit. Unfortunately, the side effects of the ultimate impact are not so easy to eliminate, even if the giant claw mantis's efforts did not achieve good results. The super armored rhino clumsily rushed in front of the giant claw mantis and successfully pierced its rotating giant horn into its body. The rotating giant horn pierced its chest. The hard metal armor did not play much of a protective role in front of this giant horn that could split mountains and rocks, and was easily pierced. Xuanjian shouted worriedly, Giant Mantis. The pierced mantis groaned, but at this moment it regained control of its body. Then it raised its pincers high and launched an ultimate attack with its last breath. Giant Mantis and Super Armor Rhino both lost their combat effectiveness, a draw. The referee announced, and then the emergency team waiting nearby rushed over and took the Giant Mantis to the emergency room. I was careless. Xuanjian sighed. Because the hit rate was too low and the horn drill skill was too useless, he had forgotten it. He didn't expect to suffer such a big loss. Fortunately, this attack should not have hurt the vitals. With the recovery ability of the elves, it will recover soon. Remember the lesson, dispel distractions, and Xuanjian put his attention back on the field. Tough work for you, electric shock monster. Xuanjian was not ready to expose too much energy, so he sent out the electric shock monster again. And Luna also took out a vine monster again. It's the old rivals again. Xuanjian smiled, but you won't get so many blessings on the rock field. Electric monster, use the flame fist to attack. Although it couldn't absorb grass energy from the environment, the vine monster was not afraid at all. It immediately used the vine whip dance again under Luna's command. After being hit by several flame punches from the electric monster, it successfully used the vines to tie up the electric monster again. Vine monster, use the wrestling. Luna immediately ordered impatiently. Using the wrestling on the hard rock field is much better than on the grass. Even if it makes the electric monster break free from the vines, it is completely worth it. However, this time, to Luna's surprise, Xuanjian did not order the electric monster to break free from the vines, but ordered, electric monster, use 100,000 volts. The electric monster immediately rose with a golden electric light, which was transmitted to the vine monster along the vine whip. For a while, both sides were shrouded in golden electric light. When the current subsided, the vine monster actually lost its combat effectiveness. How could this happen? Luna looked at the vine monster that had lost its combat effectiveness in disbelief. Electric skills were not very effective against grass vine monsters, so how could it lose its combat effectiveness with just one attack? It's true that the grass type weakens the electric type, but if the gap between the two is too big, even if it is weakened by half, the remaining damage is enough to cause the vine monster to lose its combat effectiveness. Xuanjian explained, and just now, in order to fight against a flame fist, the vine monster subconsciously adjusted the water content in its body, which reduced its ability to resist electricity. In addition, the gap between the two sides is too big, so it naturally lost its combat effectiveness. Now, take out your last Pokémon. Chapter 293 Friends? Blue's lost its fighting power. Electa won. Luna's 6 elves all lost their fighting power. Xuanjian won. As the referee announced the result, Xuanjian won the game and entered the top 8. There was no way. The water-type Blastoise was fighting against the electric-type Electa in the rock field, and it was inevitable to lose the game regardless of the time and place. Congratulations. When the two sides shook hands and reconciled, Luna's expression had returned to calm. After all, the opponent's 2 elves pushed the entire team. She had realized how huge the gap between the two sides was, so naturally there was no jealousy. Thank you. You are also very good. Xuanjian also returned. Before the game, he checked the information himself. The opponent was a girl from an ordinary family. It was really not easy to achieve this level. To be honest, the last Blastoise was very strong. If it weren't for the successive failures and the restrained attributes that prevented it from exerting most of its strength, it would not be so easy for him to win. The finals are more entertaining and the confrontation is more intense. Therefore, although the number of participants is much smaller than the preliminary round, the game arrangement is much more relaxed. Xuanjian's next game will be the day after tomorrow, so the few people who have free time ran to the street to have some fun. The next opponent is similar to today's. As long as we keep up the current state, we will be able to win the championship soon. Duoga said as she flipped through the collected information. Although she was out to have some fun, she still did not put down her work. Don't be careless, Yadua reminded, although it seems that the strength is not strong, who knows if the opponent is hiding his strength like us. I will. It was lunchtime at this moment. The game was over. People left the stadium and came to the street to have fun. Xuanjian and his party also joined the crowd. Suddenly, Xuanjian felt someone pulling his pocket. He quickly looked down and found a thin and small child taking something out of his pocket. What are you doing? Xuanjian grabbed the other person's hand and questioned. Ah! The thief screamed when he found that his theft was discovered. He didn't care about stealing anymore. He struggled hard and tore the sleeve that Xuanjian grabbed, and then turned around and ran away. With the advantage of his short stature, the other party disappeared into the crowd in the blink of an eye. Damn, my Pokémon! Xuanjian cursed, pinching the remaining sleeve in his hand. The other party took his Pokémon away when he escaped. This thing is like the ID card in the previous life. It is useless to thieves, but it is indispensable to the owner, and it is very troublesome to reissue it. Is this guy a thief? Why is he so amateur? He didn't take the cash in his pocket, but stole the Pokémon that he couldn't use. Stop talking nonsense, find a way to chase him. Duoga said. Well, Xuanjian nodded, quickly opened the Pokéball, summoned a wind speed dog, and then handed over the cloth piece, and ordered, Wind speed dog, according to the smell on it, catch that guy back. Wind speed dog lowered its head and sniffed the cloth piece. After remembering the smell, it immediately tracked it according to the residual smell in the air and on the ground. Xuanjian and his companions greeted and immediately followed. Although the surging flow of people diluted the remaining smell, making it very difficult to track, the wind speed dog quickly found the direction with its super sense of smell. Under its leadership, Xuanjian and the other 4 came to a deserted alley. Woof woof! At the entrance of the alley, the wind speed dog stopped tracking and barked at Xuanjian twice, indicating that he was hiding inside. It looks like this is where beggars hide. It seems that the Alliance's work is still not done well. Shota said as he looked at the dark alley. Just like the major celebrations in the previous life, the city appearance had to be rectified and beggars had to be accommodated. During the Quartz Conference, the Alliance cleaned up various gray areas on the Quartz Plateau. Now that everyone encountered a beggar's den, it could only mean that the work was not done well. Don't sigh, let's get the illustration back first. Yadua reminded that the illustration was an identity certificate. It would be very troublesome to participate in subsequent competitions without the illustration. Well, Xuanjian nodded, letting the wind speed dog lead the way and walked inside. For the sake of the other party's pity, as long as the other party returned the illustrated book to him, he would not pursue other matters. Several people stepped into the alley. This was a very common dead end, low, damp, dark, and perfectly in line with the street children's imagination of the living environment of street children. The only unexpected thing was that there was no child in the alley that the few people were looking for, only a strange guy in a black cloak. Did the wind speed dog find the wrong place? This is just the other party's previous residence. In fact, he has moved a long time ago? Xuanjian had a trace of doubt in his heart. When he was about to order the wind speed dog to look for it somewhere else, the mysterious man who had been standing still made a move. Is this what you were looking for? The mysterious man stretched out a hand from under the cloak, holding a red thing in his hand, which was Xuanjian's elf-illustrated book. Looking at the mysterious guy in front of him, Xuanjian felt a little alert and said, "Yes, that's exactly what I have. Who are you? Can you give my things back to me?" The mysterious man shook the illustrated book in his hand and said, "If you want it, come and get it." Then he put the illustrated book back into the pocket under his cloak, turned around and jumped over the wall. Seeing the other party's actions, Xuanjian also realized that the matter was not simple, and without any nonsense, he ordered to Arcanine, "Chase after him and catch him. This stupid dog can't catch me." The other party said, and then threw out a Pokeball, summoned a Pidgeot, and rode on the Pidgeot to escape. "Come back first, Arcanine." Xuanjian took back Arcanine, summoned the Pteranodon, and chased after it under the instructions of his companions. As the overlord of the sky in ancient times, the speed of the fossil pterosaur of the same level is faster than the eagle, but surprisingly, the mysterious man's Pidgeot is obviously much lower in level than the fossil pterosaur, but its speed is still slightly better than the fossil pterosaur. If the opponent had not let him go intentionally or unintentionally, Xuanjian would have been thrown off long ago. After a chase, the two landed on the top of a mountain in the suburbs. "Who are you? What do you want to do by luring me out?" Xuanjian asked in a deep voice. Based on the opponent's performance just now, Xuanjian was basically sure that the opponent's target was himself. "Don't be nervous, we are old friends," the mysterious man said as he pulled up his veil, revealing a somewhat familiar face. "Are you Shikara?" Xuanjian asked uncertainly. "It's me." The other party nodded. "No," Xuanjian frowned, "you are not Shikara. Although your appearance and life fluctuations are very similar, it has only been a few days since you came that night, and the life fluctuations cannot have changed so much. Besides, Shikara and I can't be called friends, we should be enemies." Hearing Xuanjian's words, the guy who called himself Shikara smiled bitterly and said, "I am indeed Shikara, but not the Shikara now, but the Shikara in the future. You understand what I mean? It's a bit boring to play the Quartz Conference alone, let me insert something." Chapter 294 The Traveler. Shikara's words were a little subtle, but Xuanjian understood them immediately. However, Xuanjian still did not let down his guard. Although there are indeed Pokémon like Celebi in this world that can allow people to travel through time, Xuanjian also judged from the life fluctuations of his aging that the other party is indeed very likely Shikara a few years later, but this does not mean that the other party has no ill will towards him. From your life fluctuations, it is credible that you said that you are Shikara a few years later. So tell me, what is your purpose in bringing me out? I want to ask you to do me a favor. Shikara did not care about Xuanjian's doubts. After all, it is really difficult to accept such an incredible thing. Shikara even thinks that it is good that Xuanjian can accept that he is from the future so quickly. "What help do you need?" "Help me catch a fugitive." "Sorry." Xuanjian decisively rejected Shikara's request, "not to mention that I'm busy playing in the Quartz Conference and don't have the spare time. Even if I have time, I can't find a reason to help you. We are friends." "Sorry, you should mean that you and I will be friends in the future. Not to mention that I don't know if this is true. Even if it is true, it is you and I who are friends in the future, and it has nothing to do with me now. And to put it bluntly, although you and I are not in a hostile relationship now, it is not far from it. Maybe, you can go to the me who is your friend for help." Hearing such perfunctory words, Shikara couldn't help but smile bitterly. This guy's personality has always been so bad. After a pause, Shikara said, "The fugitive is a very dangerous guy. If you don't help me, it will cause great damage to the world." Xuanjian yawned, waved his hand and said, "Even if the sky falls, there is still a support. There are so many justice-minded masters in the world. With them around, there is nothing to worry about. You don't think I'm better than those masters, right?" Shikara shook his head. "Even the future Xuanjian will only be among the world's top masters, not the strongest, let alone the current Xuanjian. Why did you come to me? As the captain of the special operations team, why don't you just go to someone you know? Why did you think of asking for help from me, Someone you have a very bad relationship with. Seeing that Shikira didn't speak, Xuanjian asked curiously. Because I traveled through time and space to the past. According to the theory of time and space, there cannot be two of me in the same time and space. Under normal circumstances, when I appear in this time, only one of me and the current me can exist, and one of them must be replaced by the other. Fortunately, I got Celebi's blessing to avoid this situation, but even so, I can't let the people in this time and space realize that there are two of me existing at the same time, otherwise the blessing will be invalid. Xuanjian blinked and said, but I already realized it. You are different, Shikira said, I don't know why, you are special, you are not affected by this law. In the future, you will even appear at the same time as another self with the help of Celebi, and work together to defeat the enemy. That's why I didn't look for others, but for you. I see, Xuanjian nodded, and couldn't help but ponder why he was special. Was it because of time travel or other reasons? I don't know the guy's real name. I only know that his code name is Rotten Heart, and he's from the Blood Flame cult. Wait, Xuanjian interrupted Shikira, I'm just curious and ask you a few questions. I haven't agreed to help you, so why are you telling me all this? Xuanjian's words immediately made Shikira's face extremely ugly. After talking nonsense for so long, the other party actually said that he didn't agree. It was really infuriating. But I don't know if he was used to being infuriated too many times. Shikira quickly adjusted his expression and emphasized, if we don't help that guy, it will really cause great losses to the alliance. So what? Xuanjian dug his ears, not to mention the power of the alliance, it's hard to say whether that guy can cause huge losses to the alliance. Speaking of which, you and my future self are friends. Am I a good person who repays evil with virtue in the future? Shikira sighed and shook his head seriously, no. That's right. Shaking his head, Shikira gave up the idea of seeking Xuanjian's help and turned to leave. Xuanjian curled his lips, really, how did you get the position of captain of the special operations team with your personality? You just give up when you encounter difficulties. Shouldn't you pester me for help? People who buy insurance are more resilient than you. Or is this the difference between working for the government and making money for yourself? Shikira stopped and replied, the special operations team only needs to carry out the mission well, they don't have to do these. So you agree? Xuanjian shook his head, no. Then he said, but I am very interested in you guys who have traveled through time. If you give enough compensation, I can help you. I don't bring any money. Except for this pigeon that was blessed by Celebi, I didn't bring anything here. What about other things? For example, all kinds of exclusive news about the future. Shikira shook his head, sorry, Celebi told us not to reveal too much about the future, otherwise it will disrupt the timeline and lead to terrible consequences. Is that so? Xuanjian held his chin and pondered for a while, suddenly snapped his fingers, got it. I have a good idea. Seeing Xuanjian's smiling face, Shikira suddenly felt cold all over, as if facing a beast that would eat anyone it wanted. What's your idea? You can ask your current self to pay for you. Xuanjian said with a smirk, that's a good idea, isn't it? But I can't get in touch with my current self. Shikira evaded half-truthfully. It doesn't matter. I've already thought about it for you. Xuanjian put on a standard smile showing 8 teeth, and said, I don't know if it's because you came not too late or you've taken good care of yourself, anyway, your appearance hasn't changed much. In that case, as long as you avoid your current self, you can go and take out your current self's money, and use it to hire me soon. How about it? Isn't this a good idea? After thinking about it, Shikira found that this was indeed the only way. Otherwise, with the temperament of this guy in front of him, he would never help without sufficient benefits. So, Shikira nodded with difficulty. That's right. Xuanjian clapped his hands and quickly found a pen and paper, then let's discuss the situation of the bad guy now. When the two reached an agreement, another Shikira who was carrying out a secret mission somewhere in Kanto suddenly had a bad premonition, and then couldn't help shuddering. The teammates next to him immediately noticed his abnormality and asked, Captain, are you okay? It's okay. Shikira shook his head, put the matter behind him, and warned his men, this mission is a bit dangerous, everyone be careful. Who said that the future self must help himself when he travels back? Isn't it quite exciting to pit yourself? Well, I hope that the future me will travel back and tell me what the winning numbers of the latest lottery are. Chapter 295 8-4 Although an agreement was reached with Shikira, since Shikira could not provide much information, Xuanjian could not immediately find the fugitive criminal, so he could only put his energy back to the quartz conference. Now, Xuanjian was in the arena of the quartz conference, playing the A24 game. Go, Fossil Pterosaur. Xuanjian threw out the Pokémon that he had prepared long ago. The moment the Fossil Pterosaur appeared on the stage, the audience immediately became a commotion. After all, although the fossil resurrection technology has been successfully developed, its cost is very high, and there are very few fossils that can provide complete genes, not to mention that fossils that can be used to resurrect ancient overlords such as fossil pterosaurs are almost 1 in 10,000. According to the statistics of the Alliance, there are no more than 10 registered fossil pterosaurs in the world, which can be said to be very rare. Another elf that has never appeared before, it seems that the opponent has hidden a lot of strength. Shui, Xuanjian's opponent, sighed. He eliminated Xiaomao in the last round and successfully advanced. He thought that Xuanjian, who had lost to Xiaomao, would be easier to deal with, but now it seems that the opponent has hidden too much strength. Although a little frustrated, Shuai's rich experience in fighting allowed him to quickly adjust his mentality and send out his own elf. Go, Rakuten Kappa. In the grass field, the opponent is rock and flying, so use the water and grass dual attribute Rakuten Kappa to fight. Seeing the opponent summon Rakuten Kappa, Xuanjian also launched an attack. Fossil Pterosaur, use Rock Slide. The Fossil Pterosaur immediately launched an attack after receiving the order. In the air-to-ground battle, the air side undoubtedly has the advantage. The Rock Slide it used carried a lot of gravel and hit Rakuten Kappa like raindrops, covering almost all escape directions. When Xuanjian launched the attack, Shuai also started to act. He took out a hand drum and beat it rhythmically. With the sound of cheerful drums, Rakuten Kappa seemed to have taken stimulants, and a mysterious green light appeared all over his body. Then he used the water gun skill, shot down a rock, and quickly escaped from the exposed gap. It can actually be like this. In the audience, Xiaomao was surprised to see Shuai making Rakuten Kappa's strength increase like a magic trick. When fighting with him, the opponent did not show this hand at all. After dodging the attack of the Fossil Pterosaur, Shuai immediately launched a counterattack. Lottie Kappa, use Pray for Rain. We can't let it use Pray for Rain. Xuanjian immediately made a judgment. Pray for Rain is a great benefit for Lottie Kappa, but it is very disadvantageous for the Fossil Pterosaur with rock attributes, and it may even affect its flight. It must not be used successfully, but the Fossil Pterosaur has been with him for too short a time and has not had time to learn weather skills. At this time, Xuanjian saw the hand drum in Shuai's hand and suddenly had an idea. Fossil Pterosaur, use Ghost Face. Roar. The Fossil Pterosaur roared at Lottie Kappa. The skill combined with its extremely deterrent appearance produced an effect of 1 + 1 greater than 2. Under the roar of the Fossil Pterosaur, Lottie Kappa's body kept shaking. Not only did the Pray for Rain skill that was accumulating power fail to be used, but even the mysterious halo emanating from the body disappeared without a trace. It worked. Xuanjian was overjoyed, and immediately took advantage of the victory and said, Fossil Pterosaur, use Earth Throw. The Fossil Pterosaur folded its wings, dived, and came to the limp Lottie Kappa, and grabbed Lottie Kappa with its powerful claws. Then, it stretched its wings, effortlessly lifted Lottie Kappa to the sky, and then slammed Lottie Kappa to the ground. Bang! Lottie Kappa hit the ground heavily, and lost its combat effectiveness. Earth Throw is a skill evolved by flying Pokémon when they hunt for food with hard shells. Even defensive Pokémon like who can't stand it, not to mention the fragile Pokémon like Lottie Kappa. If the Fossil Pterosaur hadn't shown mercy, Lottie Kappa would probably have been smashed into a pool of meat paste. Come back, Lottie Kappa. Shuai sighed silently and took back Lottie Kappa. The opponent was not only powerful Pokémon, but also a very good trainer. The secret technique he developed based on the characteristics of Lottie Kappa was actually cracked so easily. In the audience, Yato was explaining to Xiaomao why the situation was suddenly reversed. Lottie Kappa has a physique that makes the cells in his body become active when he hears cheerful music, and the opponent is using this to improve his combat effectiveness. But when the opponent used this trick, it also exposed the fact that Lottie Kappa's combat effectiveness is easily affected by the outside world. Based on this, Xuanjian thought in reverse and asked the Fossil Pterosaur to use deterrent skills such as Ghost Face, and at the same time used roars to disrupt the opponent's music. In this way, The activity level of Laudicappa's cells immediately changed from an extremely active state to an underestimated state, resulting in a huge gap. Under such a gap, Laudicappa lost control of his body. Not only did his skills fail, but he was almost unable to move. Naturally, he was easily captured, and then defeated with an earth throw. After taking back Laudicappa, Xu also quickly sent out an armored bird with both steel and flying attributes. Armored bird? Fossilized pterosaur, wing attack. For the elves who can also fly, whoever shoots down the other first in the battle will have the greatest advantage. Therefore, Xuanjian did not let the fossilized pterosaur use the flame fangs that are most effective against the armored bird, but used the flying wing attack. Xu also knew this, but he did not dare to let the armored bird and the fossilized pterosaur fight head-on. After all, the size difference between the two sides was large. With a wing attack launched by the power of the fossilized pterosaur, a head-on collision would definitely knock the armored bird away. Armored bird, swallow back. Although it is the ancient overlord of the sky, the fossilized pterosaur, as an earlier reptile, is far inferior to birds in adapting to the sky. This can be seen from the fact that although it has the attribute of flying, it can learn very few flying skills. Although it has a speed far exceeding that of the armored bird, the fossilized pterosaur's attack still failed. The armored bird launched the swallow return at the critical moment, easily avoiding the attack of the fossilized pterosaur's wings, and then hit the fossilized pterosaur's back. However, due to its weak power, the damage it caused was not objective. Pterosaur, take off. Xuanjian ordered. Although the attack power and speed of the armored bird were not as good as the pterosaur, after tens of thousands of years of development, bird Pokémon have evolved a body structure that is more suitable for flying. In the low-altitude field where skills are valued, the armored bird is better than the pterosaur. Although somewhat unwilling, the pterosaur also knew that he was far from being a match for these younger generations in terms of flying skills. The only thing he was proud of was his speed. Upon receiving Xuanjian's order, the pterosaur immediately raised his wings and rushed to the sky. Only there could it play the advantage of speed. Seeing the pterosaur running away, Xu immediately understood Xuanjian's intention. Low altitudes are about skills, and high altitudes are about speed. The advantage of the armored bird is flexibility, which is more effective at low altitudes. At high altitudes, in a large-scale battle, speed is the most important factor in determining victory. Armored bird, use lightweight body. Then go and stop the pterosaur. Lightweight body can greatly reduce weight and increase speed. It is a very useful skill for armored bird. After using the skill, the speed of armored bird immediately increased significantly and quickly caught up with the pterosaur. Two figures, one silver and one purple, kept colliding in the air. Relying on the super defense brought by metal feathers, armored bird successfully blocked the pterosaur from taking off with a losing strategy. Pterosaur, sharp stone attack. Seeing that he could not get rid of the armored bird, Xuanjian had to order the pterosaur to launch an attack. Armored bird, used the divine bird. With its hard body, the armored bird resisted the sharp stone attack and completed the divine bird's power accumulation. The armored bird suddenly took off, and then fell like a meteor, heavily bombarding the back of the pterosaur, knocking the pterosaur down from the air and falling heavily to the ground. Fossil pterosaur. Hearing Xuanjian's call, the fossil pterosaur let out a weak roar, indicating that it was fine, but it didn't get up from the ground for a long time. The larger the size of the guy, the greater the damage it will suffer from falling from the air. The fossil pterosaur was seriously injured. Seeing that the attack was effective, Xu was overjoyed and ordered, "Very good, armored bird, do it again." Seeing the armored bird once again rise up and accumulate power, Xuanjian's expression became serious. The fossil pterosaur on the ground was a target and it was easy to hit. This move could not be avoided, so he could only defend as much as possible. Seeing that the armored bird had completed its accumulation of power and dived from the air, Xuanjian issued an order, "Fossil pterosaur, rock blockade." Roar, the fossil pterosaur roared, and pieces of rocks rose from the ground, trying to protect it. The armored bird, which was diving at high speed, had no time to dodge, so it could only bite the bullet and crash forward. With its hard body, it smashed pieces of rocks and finally rushed to the side of the fossil pterosaur. However, after layers of reduction, the kinetic energy brought by the divine bird and the dive has been almost consumed. In the end, the attack of the armored bird was almost like tickling. Not only did it not cause much damage to the fossil pterosaur, It also sent itself to the fossil pterosaur and was bitten by this ancient predator. Well done, Xuanjian praised. Use the fire fang. Red flames came out of the mouth of the fossil pterosaur. The armored bird tried desperately to break free, but as an ancient predator, the fossil pterosaur may lack the ability to fly, but its bite force is definitely second to none. In the end, the resistance of the armored bird did not play any role. Under the fire fang, the defense of the metal feathers of the armored bird was greatly reduced, and it was completely bitten through by the fossil pterosaur. Then, the golden electric light came out of the mouth of the fossil pterosaur again, completely destroying the last bit of the armored bird's physical strength. The armored bird has lost its combat effectiveness, and the fossil pterosaur wins. The referee announced. Please support. Chapter 296. 8-4. Although he defeated the armored bird by taking advantage of his opponent's carelessness, the pterosaur was also seriously injured. Xuanjian wanted to replace the pterosaur for a rest, but was rejected by the proud pterosaur. Xuanjian had no choice but to let it go. On the other side, Xuai also replaced the third Pokémon, Lick the Tongue. Lick the Tongue is the final evolution of the general Pokémon Lick the Tongue. Its attack, special attack, and speed are not outstanding, but its double defense is above the average line. With strong physical strength, it is still a bit difficult to deal with. And the opponent ranked it third, which means that it must have unique skills. No matter what skills it has, just don't let it play out. Pterosaur, use our ultimate move. Xuanjian said to the pterosaur that the pterosaur has little physical strength left, and it is not good to delay it. It is better to use the killing move to decide the outcome. Roar! The pterosaur roared in agreement, then jumped from the ground, rushed into the sky, and disappeared from everyone's sight. Please enjoy the ultimate move of the fossil pterosaur, the advanced version of the flying skill, Rapid Impact. Xuanjian shouted. As Xuanjian shouted, a black dot appeared in people's vision and quickly grew larger. People immediately recognized that it was the fossil pterosaur that had just disappeared in the sky. At this moment, it was swooping down to the ground at a terrifying speed under the acceleration of the Earth's gravity. Too chaotic. Shi said in astonishment as he looked at the fossil pterosaur swooping down at a speed far exceeding the speed of sound. At this speed, the big tongue licking would definitely not be able to dodge, but the fossil pterosaur would probably lose its combat effectiveness directly. It is even possible to lose its life directly if it is not well controlled. On the other side, Yato explained, this is a move that hurts both sides. It requires a strong body and strong body control ability. But even so, after using this move, the strong counter-injury will make the fossil pterosaur lose its combat effectiveness. But for a proud ancient like fossil pterosaur, fighting to the last moment is its pursuit. As a trainer, all we can do is try to help it. As soon as the voice fell, the fossil pterosaur had arrived. At this speed, the big tongue licker had no way to avoid it and could only beg for the other party to make a mistake. Unfortunately, this is just a luxury. The purple figure drew an arc in the air and hit the big tongue licker, directly knocking it out of the venue and deeply into the protective wall. When the fossil pterosaur pushed the big tongue licker into the wall, everyone heard the harsh sound of tearing at high speed and the roar caused by the collision. Lick and pterosaur lose their combat power at the same time. Shuai's 3 Pokémon lose their combat power. Exchange the venue. The venue for the second half was the water venue. Xuanjian sent out Starfish, and Shuai sent out a ferocious shark. Although Shark restrains Starfish in terms of attributes, as Xuanjian's first Pokémon to break through the King of Heaven, Starfish's strength far exceeds Shark. Moreover, after years of training by Xuanjian, Starfish has already learned the electrical thunder and 100,000 volt skills. After the battle began, Starfish immediately left the water with its superpowers, making it impossible for Shark to attack. Then it used the electrical skill to attack Shark in the water, and finally easily won Shark. What a strong Starfish! Shuai sighed. His Shark was an elite Pokémon, but he didn't expect it to easily lose the game with an advantage in attributes. After sighing, Shuai looked at the last 2 Pokémon in his hand with a helpless look, one of which was his initial Pokémon, the Fire-type Infernape. In the water field, using Infernape is like sending food to the opponent, and the other one is also greatly restrained. Although it is impossible to win, since we are here, we still have to give it a try, maybe there will be a turnaround. Shu also threw another Pokéball and summoned a Master Itachi. Master Itachi landed steadily on the floating board in the pool and took a bow step. His body did not shake at all. Only the long hair on his arms like long sleeves moved with the wind, which was quite like a master. Seeing this scene, Xuanjian couldn't help but sigh. Today was really a big explosion of luck. In the second half, he drew the water field. In this field, this fighting Pokémon, which has entered the king level, can only play 70% to 80% of its strength at most. What's more unfortunate is that its attributes are restrained by the gem star. Without much hesitation, Xuanjian immediately ordered the gem star to launch an attack. Gem star, strong mind. A lavender light shot out from the gem and shot towards the Master Itachi. Master Itachi was not at all flustered. He tapped the floating board with his toes and jumped up gently, just avoiding the attack of the gem starfish. His every move showed his deep fighting skills. After dodging the attack of the gem starfish, Master Itachi swung his right arm, and the long hair like a sleeve shot out like lightning, hitting the gem starfish. This was a fighting skill. With his physical advantage and his superb body control ability, Master Itachi turned a close attack skill into a medium range skill. But that was all. The gem starfish had been ready to hide in the water at any time after releasing the skill to avoid being attacked at close range. Master Itachi was slightly slower than the gem starfish, and his skill only caused a splash of water in the end. In this round of attack, neither side took advantage. Gem starfish, multiple water guns. Knowing that the opponent was difficult to deal with one blow, Xuanjian immediately changed his strategy and decided to slowly grind the opponent to death with the advantage of attributes and venue, so he ordered the gem starfish to stop the psychic skill and use the water skill attack with the help of the environment. With the convenience of the water venue, the gem starfish launched an attack from underwater, and streams of water guns shot out from the water like fountains, shooting at Master Itachi. Master Itachi did not dare to neglect it and kept dodging, but there were too many water guns and it was difficult to avoid them completely. Master Itachi could only use a series of slaps and waved his arms to block the water guns that he could not avoid. However, although he successfully blocked the attack, Master Itachi was just an ordinary land elf after all, and the surface of his hair was not covered with waterproof grease. After blocking the water guns several times, the hair on his body was all wet by the water guns, and he could no longer restore his original master style, like a drowned chicken. Well done! Xuanjian praised. Unless the attributes are restrained, low-level skills like water guns cannot cause decent damage to elves of Master Itachi's level, but not being able to bring decent damage does not mean that there is no impact. At least now the embarrassed Master Itachi has been greatly affected by the wet hair. Speed and flexibility. Next, use Blizzard. Upon receiving the order, the gem star immediately jumped out of the water, and white snowflakes mixed with a cold wind sprayed out from the gems, blowing towards the soaked Master Itachi. With Master Itachi's state, this attack would definitely freeze him. At that time, his flexible body would be like a fish on the chopping board, and the gem star would be slaughtered by the gem star. Jia also understood this, but he did not order Master Itachi to dodge or defend, but ordered him to launch an attack. After all, for Master Itachi, who is not good at underwater combat, the opportunity for the gem star to leave the water was too rare. Anti-Tooth. Jia ordered Master Itachi to use this evil skill. As long as he survived the attack of the gem star and successfully used the skill, with Master Itachi's attack power and the double damage of the evil skill to the gem star, this skill would definitely be able to knock down the gem star with one blow. Under the popular science of the commentator, the audience also knew this. For a moment, everyone's eyes were focused on the gem starfish that was constantly spraying snow and wind on the field, and the Master Itachi who was constantly advancing. The victory of this round depends on who can hold on to the end of this competition. Facing the cold light, Master Itachi gritted his teeth and moved forward. The water surface had already frozen a layer of ice under the aftermath of the blizzard, allowing it to land. Master Itachi felt that the frost on his body was getting thicker and thicker, and his physical strength was also running out a little bit, but Master Itachi still gritted his teeth and persisted, approaching the gem starfish little by little. Close. Hold on. Shuai's shout came from afar. Master Itachi raised his head with a great effort, opened his eyes slightly, and saw that the gem starfish was indeed close at hand. Master Itachi's body shook, shaking off the ice and snow on his body, bursting out all his strength, and his arms shining with black energy slammed into the gem starfish in front of him. Swish! Master Itachi's palm struck out like the wind, hitting the gem starfish, but then Master Itachi's face changed, because the remaining touch on his numb hand told him that the attack missed, and the blizzard that had not stopped was proof. How could it be? Everyone was stunned. Only Master Itachi closed his eyes, ignored the illusion that was still in front of his body, and used his unskilled ki to sense the opponent. There. Master Itachi quickly found the real body of the gem starfish located diagonally below the illusion, and was about to attack again, but found that his body had been frozen, and except for the head exposed outside, he could no longer move. Gem starfish, attack the spirit. Xuanjian ordered. What happened next was naturally no suspense. The frozen Master Itachi completely lost his combat effectiveness under the attack of the gem starfish, and the next inferno beast, although it was the initial spirit of Shui, was not as strong as Master Itachi. Under the double disadvantage of attributes and venue, it quickly lost the game. All of contestant Shui's Pokémon have lost their combat effectiveness, and the winner is contestant Xuanjian. The referee announced. Congratulations. Shui said to Xuanjian. Perhaps because he had experienced too many setbacks, he behaved very calmly, and took this opportunity to ask Xuanjian, tit for tat is not a low-hit skill. My Master Itachi has also received special training in this area. Why did it fail to successfully hit the gem starfish? Xuanjian did not boast about his own skills, but explained, the gem starfish distorted the light, causing its position to shift in the opponent's eyes, so Master Itachi failed to hit the gem starfish. After a pause, Xuanjian continued, your Master Itachi has developed a sense of ki. It is time to learn to give up the eyes that are easily deceived and use ki to perceive the enemy. Chapter 297 Where is the stowaway? How long will it take us to find the target if we keep searching aimlessly like this? On the street, Xuanjian asked Shikura who had changed his appearance beside him. Ever since he promised Shikura to help him find the time and space fugitive, whenever Xuanjian had free time, Shikura would change back and grab Xuanjian to look for the target together. For this reason, Xuanjian had to give up his rest and training time, and had to make up various excuses to decline the invitations from the three people from Duoge. Until we find the target. Shikura replied. But there are still no clues. Xuanjian complained. In order to help Shikura find the fugitive, he lent out Arcanine and Tribitus, but after so many days, the other party still had no results. Even if it was difficult to find because there were many people nearby, there shouldn't be no clues at all, right? Then where did the other party hide? Could it be that he didn't come to this time and space at all? Xuanjian asked. No, Shikura shook his head and said, the other party used the time-space machine they developed to travel here. Both the last record left and the results of Celebi's observation of time-space fluctuations show that the other party escaped to this time period. Then could it be that the other party is not on the Quartz Plateau? No. Shikura took out an instrument like the Dragon Ball radar in Dragon Ball and said, this time-space instrument can lock the other party's approximate location. The instrument shows that the other party is still in the Quartz Plateau. That's strange. Is the other party hiding too well, or is your business ability not good enough? Xuanjian rubbed his chin and said, you are really enough. You want to arrest someone, but you don't even know his true appearance and identity, especially that he has escaped to another time period. It's really cowardly. I have begun to regret agreeing to your invitation. Without paying attention to Xuanjian's sarcasm, Shikura silently lowered his head and stared at the radar in his hand. Since the Windspeed dog returned empty-handed, the only thing that could work was the radar. The stowaways carry very strong time and space fluctuations. Although the radar cannot directly locate their positions, once they get close to each other, the radar will immediately warn. Seeing that Shikura did not say anything back, Xuanjian shook his head in boredom, but in order to make his task easier, Xuanjian could only calm down and analyze. The Windspeed dog's nose is extremely sensitive, but it has not been able to find the guy's smell anywhere, so it can only be that the other party's smell has changed. There are two possibilities for the smell to change. One is that the other party has covered it up, and the other is that the other party's fundamental smell has changed and is no longer the same as the smell provided by Shikura. Between the two, Xuanjian is more inclined to the second possibility. After all, according to Shikura, the other party did not know that someone had traveled through time and space immediately after him and chased him. But changing the smell is not an easy thing. Due to the lack of information, Xuanjian could not think of how the other party did it. It would be great if we could use the power of the Alliance. Xuanjian sighed. Although the two were working for the Alliance, There was no way to report this matter to the Alliance and get its help. Otherwise, with the power of the Alliance, how could the two of them go to the street to find someone in person? At this point, Xuanjian suddenly had an idea and asked, by the way, since the other party traveled through time using a time machine, he should not have received Celebi's blessing, right? Probably not. Shikira replied. Then does the time machine have a function similar to Celebi's blessing? Of course. Can it be turned off? Shikira looked at Xuanjian and didn't understand why he asked this, but after thinking about it for a while, he replied, I remember it seems to be possible. But unless he is crazy, the other party will definitely not turn off this function. You know, once this function is turned off, it will be backfired. According to the information already obtained, the other party is about 30 years old, which means that the other party already exists at this point in time. If he loses the protection of the machine, he will immediately be backfired. That's not necessarily true. Xuanjian stroked his chin and said to Shikira's puzzled eyes, I remember you said that the result of the backlash of time and space is that only one of your future self and your present self can exist. The reason you made the assumption that the other party would not turn off the machine was because you thought from the perspective of wanting to return to the future. But what if the other party doesn't actually plan to return to the future? Don't plan to return to the future. That's right, Xuanjian nodded and said, since the other party's conspiracy has been discovered by you in the future, then returning to the future is actually meaningless. It is better to take root in this time and create a new future. If you don't return to the future, then even if you are backlashed by time and space, it doesn't matter if only one of you is left. If this inference is true, then it is easy to explain why Arcanine couldn't find the other party's scent, because the original other party is no longer there, and the smell has naturally changed or disappeared. Shikira was stunned. He was indeed in a blind spot in thinking and didn't consider this possibility enough. But the risk is too great. Xuanjian rolled his eyes at Shikira. The other party is a cult member. How can they think like normal people? Besides, normal people would not necessarily make the same choice if they were forced into such a desperate situation. By the way, what is the backlash of time and space like? I don't know, Shikira shook his head. The information is incomplete. We only know that the result of the backlash of time and space is that only one individual can exist in the same time period. As for what the mechanism is, I don't know either. I don't know again, Xuanjian sighed helplessly, staring at Shikira and said, I really want to use you to experiment. What will be the consequences? Maybe I will disappear. Shikira said lightly. Although I don't know the consequences, I have a hunch that if space-time backlash occurs, I will probably disappear. After all, the matter and energy that make up me bear the imprint of other space-times and will be rejected by the space-time. If I am backlashed by space-time, my body will probably disappear. Wait, Xuanjian suddenly had an idea and said, if what you said is true, then no matter who stays in the end, the body used will be the body of this space-time, right? Yes. Shikira nodded. That's right. Xuanjian clapped his hands. Maybe this is the fundamental purpose of the other party's travel here, otherwise the other party would have no need to travel to this space-time where there is a risk of space-time backlash. Wouldn't it be better to travel directly to an earlier space-time where you didn't exist? Makes sense. Shikira nodded and said, I know what to do. I feel that the writing is a bit messy. Let's count it as an extra chapter to thank everyone for the rewards in November. Please support. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298 4-2. Although all the ideas were influences, the two of them at least had a direction, and they were no longer running around like headless flies. Guided by the inference, the two soon found the suspected target. Is it this guy? Xuanjian pointed to a photo in the newspaper and asked Shikira. It should be him. Shikira replied, although I haven't seen his true face, some of the skills and techniques he used in the game are definitely not from this era. It seems that the other party really turned off the instrument, but I don't know what the result of the backlash of time and space is. Is it the fusion of two different time selves, or one of them swallowed the other? I really want to catch him and study him carefully. Xuanjian said in the tone of a mad scientist. The person the two are talking about now is a contestant of the quartz competition. Together with Xuanjian, he is called the two dark horses of this quartz conference and one of the current favorites to win the championship, Xuanjian. According to the information in the newspaper, the opponent had been mediocre before and was almost eliminated in the second 3 versus 3, but suddenly broke out from the third game, making a surprise all the way, and rushed directly from the 18-line level to the favorite to win the championship. If these were the only things, they would not be enough to make the two suspect him. After all, the other party might be hiding his strength. What really made the two suspect him was that the power of the elves he used increased dramatically in a short period of time, just like opening a golden finger. What should we do next? Just capture this guy and send him back to the future? Then he will not exist in this time period. Xuanji asked. Spearow was at a loss for a moment. He had never thought of this situation before coming. After thinking for a while, Spearow said, "Never mind this, since the opponent is our target, then we will stop him from doing whatever he wants to do. At present, it seems that the opponent wants to win the championship of the Quartz Conference, so let's do our best to stop him." And what? And this Quartz Conference is a very important historical node. If it is changed, it will have a significant impact on the future. So you must win the game. Important historical node? Win the game. Xuanjian chewed on Spearow's suggestive words and fell into deep thought for a while. With a goal determined, Xuanjian put his attention back on the Quartz Conference. After all, Spearow said that this was an important historical node, so the championship of this Quartz Conference was more important than he had originally expected, and he must win it. In the Quartz Conference arena, Xuanjian's new round of opponent is a middle-aged man named Biga. Nowadays, the age of players in the Quartz Conference is getting younger and younger. It is rare to see trainers like Biga who are still active in the Quartz Conference at this age. All of them are tough opponents, and Biga is no exception. Dragon and Crystal Lantern both lost their combat effectiveness, a draw. On the ice field, the referee announced as he watched the two elves lose their combat effectiveness one after another. "It looks like it will take some effort," Xuanjian said while grabbing his head while taking back Crystal Lantern. The opponent's strength is very good. In the previous duel, Crystal Lantern used nightmares on the opponent, and it was also hit by Dragon's Song of Destruction. Then Xuanjian let Crystal Lantern attack continuously, trying to knock the opponent down before the Song of Destruction took effect, but Dragon perfectly defended it and dragged it until the Nightmare skill and the Song of Destruction took effect. To be honest, with the opponent's level, if it were not for the advantage of the king level, Xuanjian would not even be able to lose both. Go, Gyarados. Xuanjian sent out his second Pokémon. According to the plan, before the final, Xuanjian had to send all his Pokémon out once as a warm-up. Seeing Gyarados appear, Biga was overjoyed. "Gyarados? I just happen to have a suitable Pokémon here. Come on, Mama Eel King." As Biga moved, a strange-looking Pokémon was summoned, which was the electric Pokémon Mama Eel King. After Mama Eel King appeared, it did not fall on the ice, but floated slightly in the air. This was because its floating characteristic was working. It's really a bit troublesome. Xuanjian looked at the somewhat ferocious Mama Eel King and had a headache. Not to mention the fourfold attribute restrained, the opponent was also immune to ground-based attacks, which was a bit of a headache. Gyarados, Dragon's Fury. For the sake of caution, Xuanjian did not let Gyarados use the physical attack that he was best at, but let it use Dragon's Fury. The blue Dragon's Fury spewed out of Gyarados' big mouth, roaring and rushing towards Mama Eel King, trying to catch the opponent off guard with its speed advantage. The attributes of the Mama Eel King are very good, the only flaw is its slow speed. The Dragon's Fury is very fast and is about to hit the Mama Eel King. Biga then ordered slowly, "Mama Eel King, Plasma Bath." Golden electric light sprayed out of the Mama Eel King's mouth and wrapped around its body. Suddenly, its body immediately retreated to the rear at an extremely fast speed, avoiding the attack of the Dragon's Fury. It can actually be like this. Xuanjian looked at the Mama Eel King's actions in surprise, and was extremely surprised. Generally speaking, due to the limitations of the body structure, most creatures, including elves, are faster when moving forward and move very slowly when retreating, but the behavior of the Mama Eel King broke the convention. "This is my secret technique," said Biga proudly, and then ordered, "Mama Eel King, use headbutt attacks continuously." Hearing Biga's order, Mama Eel King immediately turned into a flash of lightning, constantly wandering in the field, and occasionally looking for opportunities to rush up and launch headbutt attacks on Gyarados. Although Mama Eel King is also more than 2 meters long, it still looks petite compared to a behemoth like Gyarados. The attack it launched looks like an ant trying to shake a tree. But in fact, it is not the case. Xuanjian knows that he has really met a master this time. When most trainers encounter Gyarados, due to the oppressive feeling brought by its huge body, they will subconsciously think that it is better at physical defense, and will tend to use special attack skills when launching attacks. In fact, Gyarados is a Pokémon with high special defense, but its huge body makes it more resistant to physical attacks. After using the Plasma Bath, Mama Eel King's body was filled with electricity, and all its general skills became electrical skills. Every attack caused considerable damage to Gyarados. Xuanjian tried to let Gyarados fight back, but the ice limited Gyarados' speed, and the Mama Eel King was extremely flexible, making it very difficult to catch. We can't go on like this. Xuanjian looked at Gyarados, who was getting more and more wounded, and ordered, Gyarados, use Tornado. Roar. Gyarados roared, and a violent whirlwind rose around him. After breaking through the Heavenly King, Gyarados' flying and dragon energy were greatly enhanced, and the tornado he used was also greatly increased in power. Mama Eel King underestimated the power of the tornado, and was sucked into the tornado before he could dodge, and was unable to move for a while. Good opportunity. Xuanjian looked at the trapped Mama Eel King, and immediately asked Gyarados to take advantage of the victory. Gyarados, use the ultimate impact. Roar. Gyarados jumped high and used all his strength to hit Mama Eel King, as if to vent the resentment of being suppressed and beaten just now. Seeing that Mama Eel King was unable to break free from the tornado for a while, Biga gave up the idea of evading and ordered loudly, Mama Eel King, we are the same, ultimate impact. Boom. The huge body of Gyarados fell on the ice and smashed down heavily. The floating Mama Eel King could not withstand the attack of such a big guy and was smashed directly onto the ice. The hard ice surface could not withstand this powerful blow and shattered in the roar of the impact. After the collision subsided, the referee looked at the shattered ice surface and said with a twitch at the corner of his mouth, Mama Eel King and Gyarados have lost their combat effectiveness at the same time, a draw. Seeking support in December. Chapter 299 4-2. The game ended in a tie again, and Xuanjian looked a little solemn. Compared to the last game where he was the main attacker, he was the main defender in this game. Although it ended in a tie, Xuanjian clearly felt that he was suppressed by the opponent. I must reverse the situation. Xuanjian thought to himself. If you keep defending, you will lose. If you keep following the opponent's pace, then once an unexpected situation occurs, it is easy to fall into complete disadvantage. Just like his opponent in the A24 match, he kept following his steps, and in the end he was forced to use Infernape to fight in the water field. Go, Magna. Following the action of Biga, a Magna jumped out of the Pokeball, did a flexible somersault, and landed on a piece of broken ice. At the same time, he showed his cold claws to Xuanjian in a demonstrative manner. Ice and Dark Magikarp? It's really suitable for this venue. Xuanjian exclaimed, and then threw a Pokeball. Go, Charizard. A flash of light passed, and a majestic Charizard appeared on the field, but it was obviously not very adaptable to the slippery ice surface. When it came out to pose, it almost slipped and fell. It was a bit flustered for a while, looking ridiculous. Seeing that the opponent was not very adaptable to the ice surface, Magikarp's eyes flashed, and he immediately launched a sneak attack on the vital point. With his ice-like claws and ice attributes, Magikarp was like a fish in water on the ice. At this time, Xuanjian's calm and relaxed command came over, Charizard, spray flames. Boom. Hearing Xuanjian's order, the originally flustered Charizard flapped its wings, quickly stabilized its body, and then opened its mouth and sprayed a thick flame towards the Mela who was rushing straight at it. Mela immediately forced to change direction, but still failed to completely avoid it and was immediately hurt. Mela. Biga screamed distressed, and Xuanjian said proudly, do you think Charizard's wings are just for show? What a cunning guy. Biga said annoyedly, he was careless for a while, and he didn't expect to fall into the opponent's trap. Although he was annoyed in his heart, Biga still encouraged on the surface, come on, Mela, use the grab attack. Charizard, Hot Wind. The wide wings flapped wildly, blowing out a hot whirlwind. With its wide wingspan, the Charizard's hot wind covered all of Mela's dodge space. Under the hot wind, Mera groaned in pain. As an ice spirit, it had a very poor resistance to the hot wind of the fire. However, Mera showed amazing tolerance for damage, and rushed into Charizard in the hot wind and completed the attack. Mera's sharp claws were like a sharp blade. Even if it just scratched Charizard's body lightly, it would immediately make Charizard's skin and flesh burst, and bright red blood spilled all over the ground. Charizard was furious and immediately gathered all its strength to use Burn. Suddenly, the blazing flames covered the entire venue. Mera had no way to avoid it and lost its fighting power under the flames. Mera lost its fighting power, Charizard won. Hearing the referee announce the result, Xuanjian breathed a sigh of relief. Although Charizard suffered a lot of damage, he finally regained the advantage. After taking back Charizard, Xuanjian quietly waited for the venue to be exchanged. Soon, a piece of grass was exchanged. This was the venue Xuanjian had chosen before. Go, Venusaur. Instead of using Charizard, Xuanjian chose the grass-type Venusaur. Vulpes, go, Dragonfly. Biga summoned a rare insect-type Pokémon Dragonfly, also known as Yangyangma, but it seemed that he didn't know enough about it. Even though this Dragonfly was already at a high level, it still couldn't evolve into an ancient giant Dragonfly. But even if it doesn't evolve, with its attribute advantages, Dragonfly is enough to compete with Venusaur. Dragonfly has the characteristic of acceleration. The longer the time is delayed, the faster it is. Xuanjian didn't dare to neglect it and immediately ordered Venusaur to attack. Vulpes, petals fall. Petals fell off the pistol on the back of Venusaur and shot at Dragonfly. In order to minimize the opponent's dodge advantage, Xuanjian changed this group attack skill into a single attack skill targeting Dragonfly. Seeing the petals flying at it, the Dragonfly immediately fought back, and the sharp insect chirping sounded as its wings vibrated at high speed, meeting the colorful rain of flowers. The rain of flowers was blocked by the sound waves and exploded into pink powder. Under the refraction of the sun, a rainbow appeared in the sky. The audience was intoxicated by this wonderful beauty and did not notice the hidden murderous intent. Under the cover of the colorful rain of flowers, two snake-like vine whips quietly extended out, approached the Dragonfly in the air, and launched a fierce strangling. The vine whips, like a predatory python, suddenly exerted force and strangled the Dragonfly, but Xuanjian had no time to be surprised, and saw the figure of the Dragonfly shattered like foam. It turned out that the Dragonfly had already fled to other places, and only a shadow clone was left in the original place. The trick that Bulbasaur had planned for a long time failed. The Dragonfly's eyes are very sharp, and this trick can't escape its eyes, said Biga proudly. Xuanjian nodded, not angry, and continued to order Bulbasaur, in that case, let's attack. Bulbasaur, Vine Whip attack. Suddenly, a large number of vine whips shot out from Bulbasaur's back and shot madly at the Dragonfly in the air. At this time, Xuanjian imitated the tricks developed by the vine monsters he had fought before, which was very useful for dealing with flying targets in the air. However, the Dragonfly was not a vegetarian. He immediately used the see-through skill, found a loophole in the siege of the vine whip, dodged left and right, and finally avoided all attacks. Not bad, but how many times can you use your see-through? Bulbasaur, fall petals. After giving the order, Bulbasaur immediately sprinkled a large number of petals to attack the Dragonfly in the air again, as if using such a large-scale skill continuously did not burden it at all. And this is also the case. The grass-type elves have very strong endurance, and Bulbasaur is one of the best, not to mention that they are still in the grass-type field and can be blessed by the environment. In response to Bulbasaur's attack, the Dragonfly used the same trick again and used the insect song to fight against it. Looking at the two skills that were deadlocked in the air, Xuanjian continued to order, next, another vine whip attack. Dragonfly, avoid it. Biga did not hesitate and immediately issued an order. Although he did not use the see-through skill, he was confident that Dragonfly could easily avoid this attack. After all, after so long, under the acceleration characteristics, Dragonfly's speed has been greatly improved. But things were beyond Biga's expectations. This time, Dragonfly failed to successfully avoid the attack. It was hit by a vine whip on the wings, lost its balance and fell down. Then it was immediately entangled by other vine whips that swarmed in. With Dragonfly's ability, it was basically impossible to break free in this situation. How could it be? Biga was stunned, and then suddenly sniffed and said thoughtfully, "It's the sweet fragrance." Bingo! Xuanjian snapped his fingers. Dragonfly's speed did increase, but Venusaur's sweet fragrance with the help of falling flowers also succeeded. And because of the attribute relationship, the sweet fragrance of the grass-type Venusaur is very effective for insect-type Pokémon. Keep asking for support. Chapter 300 Mega Evolution Kanto Debut. Come back and rest. Dragonfly. Biga threw the Pokéball and retrieved Dragonfly. He had been mentally prepared for Dragonfly's failure. After all, although Dragonfly had a huge attribute advantage, its strength was greatly limited because it had not evolved. As a senior trainer, Biga did not dwell too much on this matter and quickly sent out the next Pokémon. Go, Squirtle. The Pokéball opened, and a fire-type Pokémon that looked like a monkey appeared on the field. It was the fire-type Pokémon Squirtle. As soon as Squirtle appeared on the field, it immediately twitched its nose and sniffed around, looking intoxicated, as if it was a drug addict with a drug addiction. Higa knew his Pokémon very well. Seeing this, he smiled and said, "Snackamwaki, the air is filled with the fragrance of the flower from the opposite Bulbasaur. You can smell the sweet nectar from it, right? Come on, as long as you defeat it, I will buy you sweets that are more delicious than nectar, so that you can eat as much as you want." After hearing Higa's words, Snackamwaki immediately became more energetic and fiercely pushed Bulbasaur, as if he wanted to burn it with his eyes. Higa nodded with satisfaction. Sure enough, using sweets to motivate Snackamwaki is always successful. Then you guys have to work hard. My Bulbasaur is not so easy to be defeated. Xuanjian raised his right hand, revealing a bracelet inlaid with a keystone. Bulbasaur, Mega Evolution. Dazzling light shot out from the keystone and the reduction stone worn on Bulbasaur's neck, connected together, and wrapped Bulbasaur. Amid the exclamations of the audience, Bulbasaur grew again, and the flower tree on its back became more lush. At the same time, the grass in the venue grew rapidly, and in a blink of an eye, it changed from a shallow grass to a sea of grass more than 1 person high. This, Biga was also shocked, and even forgot to comfort the Amori, who was panicked because his vision was blocked by the sea of grass. This is a Mega Evolution. It should be the first time to be displayed in public in Kanto. Xuanjian replied, "Then let you give Mega Bulbasaur its first victory on stage. Then you have to work hard." Biga is worthy of being a senior trainer. He quickly adjusted his mood and responded by imitating Xuanjian's previous tone. Then he said to the Explosive Monkey, "Explosive Monkey, don't be nervous. Although we don't know what the opponent did, it's nothing more than strengthening Bulbasaur. The opponent's attributes have not changed. The advantage is still on our side." Hearing the trainer's words, the originally nervous Explosive Monkey calmed down. Biga nodded with satisfaction and ordered, "Explosive Monkey, Fire Punch." Although the view was blocked by the overgrown weeds, Explosive Monkey and Biga had developed enough tacit understanding. With Biga standing on the command platform and looking down, Explosive Monkey quickly found the position of Mega Bulbasaur and rushed over quickly. "Stop it, don't let it get close," Xuanjian ordered, and immediately several vine whips hung from the back of Mega Bulbasaur and attacked Explosive Monkey. After Mega Evolution, the originally thick vine whips doubled. One by one, the vine whips sneaked into the bushes and quickly came to the side of Explosive Monkey under the cover of the bushes, launching an attack like a giant python hunting. Biga on the command platform quickly discovered the trajectory of the whip from the unusual shaking of the grass, and immediately issued a warning to the Explosive Monkey. With its impressive speed, the Explosive Monkey avoided the ambush of the whip, but was also besieged by many whips and could not escape. If you defend for too long, you will lose, especially in the opponent's home court. Biga did not dare to let the Explosive Monkey and the whip get stuck, and immediately ordered, "Explosive Monkey, jump up and use burn to the whole field." The Explosive Monkey nodded, flexibly avoided the attack of a whip, tapped the whip with his toes, and jumped high with the whip. Flames ignited on his head and tail at the same time, forcibly activated the fierce fire feature, and then used the flame vortex on the field below. A blazing flame burst out of the mouth of the Explosive Monkey, covering the entire venue. The Explosive Monkey's full-strength attack was extremely powerful. Under the blazing flame, the dense grass kept curling, scorching, and finally burning. The entire venue was engulfed in flames. Looking at the burning venue, Biga couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Although he told the Explosive Monkey that it was okay, The mysterious Mega Evolution actually put a lot of pressure on him. However, surrounded by such flames, even Mega Bulbasaur couldn't stand it, right? Thinking of this, Biga looked at Xuanjian, but then his heart tightened, because Xuanjian's face didn't show any worry at all. Xuanjian also noticed the gaze of Biga, and immediately smiled and said, "Don't worry, Mega Venusaur is not that fragile." As soon as the voice fell, a golden light was seen like a sharp sword, tearing through the flames and hitting the panting Magi. It was Mega Venusaur who completed the charging of Sunblaze under the cover of the flames, and took advantage of Magi's exhaustion to launch the attack. Although the Fire-type Pokémon has a half-weakening of the Grass-type skills, Sunblaze is a big move of the Grass-type after all. Magi was caught off guard and was hit by this attack and was immediately severely injured, but fortunately, he still had a little physical strength left. It didn't get knocked down by one blow. "What a great guy!" Xuanjian exclaimed. If the intelligence was not unequal, the opponent didn't know that Mega Venusaur had acquired the thick fat characteristic after evolving and was no longer afraid of fire. The opponent might be able to defeat Venusaur, but now Mega Venusaur, give it the last blow. Another sunshine flame. The flower tree on Mega Venusaur's back once again emitted a dazzling light, and the golden sunlight gradually gathered on it. Mega Venusaur launched Sunshine Flame again. Bumbix also showed a strong backbone. It struggled to stand up from the ground, used the charged flame attack, and rushed towards Mega Venusaur in the face of Sunshine Flame. Bumbix lost its combat effectiveness, Venusaur won. Unfortunately, backbone is not equal to strength. Bumbix finally fell under the attack of Mega Venusaur and failed to successfully cause damage to Mega Venusaur. "Well done, Bumbix. We'll go eat sweets after the game." Biga took back the Bumbix that had lost its combat effectiveness and comforted it softly. In this battle, Magic had performed exceptionally well. It was not its fault that it lost the game. Taking out the last Pokeball, Biga said to Xuanjian, "I know I have lost, but I want to see more of your Mega Bulbasaur. Come on, Hook." The petite Hook spread its wings, circled and landed on the ground. Biga no longer followed the rules of the game and ordered Hook, use attack. As a fighting Pokémon, Hook has good fighting qualities and does not need the trainer to give too specific orders. Upon receiving Biga's order, Hook immediately flapped its wings and rushed towards Mega Bulbasaur at high speed. Xuanjian shook his head and said, "Then it's as you wish. Mega Bulbasaur, let your opponent see your power." Mega Bulbasaur nodded, raised its right foot high, and stomped heavily on the ground. At the same time, circles of green halos spread out around Mega Bulbasaur with Mega Bulbasaur as the center. "Is this an earthquake?" Biga looked at Mega Bulbasaur's movements in confusion, guessed, and then shook his head. Although Wrestling Hawkman was indeed affected by the ground shaking, it was just a vibration caused by Mega Bulbasaur's huge power, not an earthquake skill. Biga's doubts did not last too long, because the answer soon appeared in front of him. After the green halo swept over, the ground that was burned black by the flames of the explosive monkey suddenly emerged with a little green, and then a large number of plants broke out of the ground, grew wildly, and turned into hard thorns, launching a crazy attack on Wrestling Hawkman. With his agile posture, Wrestling Hawkman kept dodging, but there were too many thorns besieging him, and he was soon submerged in these crazy growing plants. Wrestling Hawkman lost his combat effectiveness, Bulbasaur won. Biga's 6 Pokémon all lost their combat effectiveness, and the winner is Xuanjian. I have something to do tomorrow, so I rushed it out tonight and posted it in advance. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.